How's my beatboxing? It's alright. It's okay. How's everybody doing? How you feeling this Sunday? Are you ready to begin? That sounds like a yes to me. So let's begin. Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Matt, your chaotic narrator. Oh, I'm missing something very important. Cannot forget. The iconic and never-changing brand that is my goggles. Hey everyone, it's good to see you. Thank you very much for popping in. Tonight, of course, is another World Building Weekend stream. And so, tonight, I'm going to be going through the details behind a handful of tabletop RPGs that are specifically designed for creating a world. And these are some really fantastic and fun ones. I've been reading through them pretty much all week, and there's some very fun and interesting things worth showing. There's a handful of others that is not on the list mentioned here that are worth going through as well. But before we get into that, I just want to say once again, thank you very much for watching. If you are somebody that enjoys tabletop content, whether it be world building content or actual play content, please consider hitting that follow button located down below where this big screen is, this rectangle that is a stream. So you will notice, of course, that I have reached 300. So if you're a frequent watcher, you already know that. But I have been doing more build-up and more planning for a particular future 24-hour world building stream. Here's the first time that I get to actually articulate it here for you what the plan is. It's actually going to be, because I need my sleep, let's just be honest, and because world building is a brain intensive activity that is going to require much more than simply spending 24 hours straight, I'm going to be doing two 12-hour streams, one day after the other, which is 24 hours. See, it works. It works. That way, I'm going to be able to actually get proper sleep and be able to consistently bring the energy and bring content. When is this going to happen? It's going to happen in a few weeks. This is a plan that I have as a way of going through and participating with the community in an interactive way, building a world, that is to say, I guess I couldn't call it a world, it's a setting. You would see why once you got to the actual stream itself. But the idea is building a setting with the community, which is something that I'm very excited about, something that I want you to be excited about as well. Also, if you don't mind, hey, assisting individuals with other processes, please consider jumping in to when that street, like whenever it is I actually announce the date. Please consider jumping in, because as a chatter, you will have the ability to voice your preference and opinion in a bunch of polls that I will be conducting to help build out this stream. That is, say, build out this world while I stream. Hell's Helen says 24-hour D&D world building stream ? You're asking for chaos, sir. Well, that is correct. So that is correct. That's why I made it 2 12-hour streams instead of one consecutive 24-hour, because that was madness. That was a mad idea. Why did I have that idea? That did not make any sense whatsoever. That is not the kind of idea that comes out of a rational mind such as myself. But it did. And so I'm retconning that. It's going to be 2 12-hour streams, which is 24 hours total when you really think about it. That way I get sleep. Sleep's important. Sleep is important for me, but it's also important for you, because otherwise, if I don't get sleep, I can't bring the hotness. I cannot bring the content that's relevant in order to make this world with you. Also, I want to compel you to maybe take a moment and jump down, boom, boom, in the doobly-doo and click the YouTube link, because I am still, once again, chugging away on the journey to 100 followers. Now, I gotta come clean. I am refusing, and I am not doing sub for subs. I hate it. I ain't gonna do it. That's a terrible way to do things. I only accept organic follows and organic subscriptions. So, and just remember, it's absolutely free to subscribe on YouTube. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free. So, consider going down to that doobly-doo and hitting that YouTube button, and consider subscribing if you have not already. Finally, a couple things that I want to, I may as well do my little ad roll thingy while I'm at it. Tonight, once again, we're going to be talking about tabletop role-playing games that are used to world build. The ones in particular, the big ones, are going to be Microscope, Kingdom, and The Quiet Year. I have seen a couple of these run, and collectively, the individuals that participated in them, that played in them, did quite a bit in order to make everything come together. And a lot of chicanery took place. So I'm hoping that the same energy and the same power can be conducted. Oh, because I will be running some of these during that 12-hour stream as well. So more interactive participation. If you want to create a world with me, if you want to build a setting with the Chaotic and Writer, you can do so. I am missing, where is my thingy? Advert live, there we go. Hi everyone. So, super quick, I'm gonna spend a lot of time. I do have a Patreon, and that Patreon is not a money-making endeavor. It is not a money-making endeavor. I'm not making a profit off of what I do. I am, however, recouping some expenses, like for website and invest in trying to build out resources and assets for the actual play. So if you're somebody that likes tabletop role-playing, if you're somebody that likes world building, and you like world building streams, then consider going down to the doobly-doo and becoming a patron. And there are some benefits. You can feel free to go down the doobly-doo and see what those benefits are. They are quite significant, if I do say so myself. However, that's not the only thing I want to plug. I do also have a website. It is my website. It's called chaoticandwriter.com. So if you're somebody that likes reading about world building or writing, also thank you very much, Juno Kepler, for jumping in and supporting the stream. I do sincerely appreciate it. Thank you. This would be a fantastic opportunity for me to triple, quadruple check just to make sure that oh, there we go. Boom, down there. There's your name. You are made infamous now. Latest follower, Juno Kepler. Anyways, if you like reading about tabletop, if you like reading about writing, world building topics, I do write to this website. This is my website. I am the web admin for that site. Feel free to go check it out. There's also a bunch of random name generators. I make those too. So if you're looking for resources, you can find those at www.chaoticandwriter.com. And we're going to pivot back. We're going to go to the live chatting screen. As a matter of fact, no, we're going to actually go right back to the full screen. Hello, everyone. It's good to see you. So, in just a moment, we are going to dig into Microscope Kingdom and the Quiet Year. It's probably called A Quiet Year, but here is where I get to sort of tell the story of how I came across these tabletop RPGs. Initially, it didn't occur to me that, I mean, it makes sense now. It didn't occur to me that there are tabletop games of which requires the creative powers of multiple people around the table to create a setting and a world. Naturally, that's something that comes into relevance when you're playing any tabletop game, because you are role playing, you are bringing your characters to life, you are essentially bringing the setting to life. But in many tabletop games, there is not a lot of opportunity for you, the player, to actually build the world. And that is what these tabletop games are for. The whole idea is to have a world by the end of the game, a world that can be used for pretty much anything. You can use it for, like a writing project, or you can use it as the basis of a future tabletop game. You can play them consecutively, one after the other, just to build out an entire range of lore within a particular setting. The most notable one on this list is going to be The Quiet Year. Oh, by the way, Helen says, welcome to Madness. Sorry for DMing. Oh, that is A-okay. A-okay. Juno Kepler says, hello, loving your steampunk goggles. Nice to meet you, by the way. Well, thank you. Thank you very much for popping into the stream. I sincerely appreciate it. So, The Quiet Year is the one that I know most intimately. Now, I haven't played The Quiet Year. However, I'm a huge fan of the Zonecast. If you don't know what the Zonecast is, it is the Adventure Zone, which is a McElroy production, where basically three brothers and their dad all play D&D. And they all come from different, they're all within the same family. They're all like kings of the podcast world. But they all have different backgrounds when it comes to playing D&D. And so it creates for some very interesting shenanigans and some very interesting character dynamics. Now, for the most recent season, which they call Ethersea, they ran The Quiet Year before they ran the D&D campaign, because they were going to use The Quiet Year to actually establish the entire setting, the entire plots, and then we're going to build a campaign based around the results of running The Quiet Year. This is the power of using games like this in order to articulate and to build the foundation for something that could be a tabletop game in the future. So, without too much further ado, I want to dig into the very first one, which is Microscope. Now, Microscope is the one I've looked at the least, but is the one that I've seen recommended the most. Microscope, if I can give you just a brief tidbit, it is sort of it's a setting. I mean, of course, it's setting agnostic. You're creating the setting. It works differently than other RPGs. You essentially, in Microscope, you don't have your own character. You do not have a character. You won't be playing the game in any sort of chronological order whatsoever. You build the story from the outside in. You decide the big picture, the grand scheme of history, and then burrow down and carve out the details. Think big, because you have a massive chunk of history to play in. So, allow me to pivot over to my scene that is dedicated towards, let's see, display right. Is that going to be the one? Full screen presentation doesn't seem like it's it. Let's do this one. And then I just need to make sure I get the proper scene, proper screen up. That might be important. Acrobat. There we go. Hello. Okay. Also, it may make sense for me to make that smaller, and there we go. Now, I don't know if I'm going to read this entire thing to you, but the bare gist of it is that Microscope Games is you, the host or the player. You build out the entire epic history of the world, and you can think of it as large as like the Lord of the Rings, or large as the Marvel Cinematic Universe, if you wish. But you don't play it from start to finish. You sort of polka dot your way through the history of the world. You can go anywhere. You can go anywhere on the timeline you want to create anything you want. You, as a player, have incredible creative authority when you are playing this game. But of course, you are building off of each other. Everybody else in the group is building together. And you're seeing this like grand fabric play out as you play Microscope. Here it says it's 2 to 5 players, but 3 or 4 are the best. Now the thing is like I don't necessarily know if that's the case, because you just in my mind, if you get enough people that are on the same page, having more brains seems to be like a better way to go. You really think about it. Roller 300, hello. It came from a petri dish. Oh, yeah. Hopefully it did not. I don't want to get the new disease, whatever the new disease is. You need a stack of index cards, something to write with, along with table space to lay everything out. Now, obviously, if I were to run Microscope, I'd be using a virtual tabletop. I'd be using like Foundry, and then creating scenes that are ways to like represent the stuff on there. Let's actually get to the meat and gravy. So it requires 4 steps in particular. 1, creating the big picture. 2, developing a bookend history. 3, the basically collective voting on what ingredients are going to go into the recipe by the end. And then the first pass, which is essentially you could think of it as quality assurance. Trying to make sure that what you have put together makes sense. Now, step 1. First brainstorm, simple overview of the history that you want to play. So you're thinking of elevator pitches in this case. Single sentence stuff like an ancient empire rises and falls. That's very super duper broad. Cavemen at the dawn of time found the first civilization. All right. Mankind leaves the sick earth behind and spreads out to the stars. Is it because of the new disease? Or maybe it is a blob or a Pokemon. You're definitely right there. The idea is to pick something big and broad, and something that has a lot of points that you can draw out, a lot of potential. There are a few seeds that it suggests, and that therefore it goes ahead to ask questions on those seeds. Stuff like 3 nations are united as a single empire. Okay, well, what kind of nations are they? Are they feudal kingdoms, primitive tribes, modern superpowers, sorry. Stellar clusters, colonies on an alien world. All of these are viable. All of these are spectacular. Do the people of these nations share the same culture? Are they even the same race? These are good questions. So that is the general idea, is that in coming up with the big picture, you also have to get the, what are the big rocks, the big questions that you're trying to answer, right? Another one is refugees carve out a new life in a distant land. Where is the distant land? Is it a continent across the sea, a planet circling a lonely star, or a hidden magical realm? Or it is a drop of bubbly, sparkling water. Maybe there is something that is growing in it. Civilization. Or a plague. Anyways. What are they fleeing? Is it religious persecution, environmental collapse, zombie hordes, the oppressive hand of a dark overlord? A new force change. Then another seed is a new force changes society, wiping away the old values. See, a lot of these are like super broad, but how much are you going to be able to get into an elevator pitch, like a 1-sentence dealie? But that's the magic of Microscope, is you are not coming in with a preconceived idea so much. You are simply stating a potential world, a potential setting, and then you're asking the questions. And then you are fractally building out as things progress. Now, the bookend history is when you actually take this concept and you're like, okay, let's figure out, let's chunk out the timeline. Agree on a short description for each period, a few sentences or a paragraph. Decide whether each description is light or dark, whether that happens during the period is generally happy or tragic. Some examples of this. Our concept is mankind leaves the sick earth behind and spreads to the stars. We decide to have a light starting period and a dark ending period. Light period, earth is in sad. The light period is that the earth is in sad shape, but mankind unites to face the challenge and make a new life amongst the stars. It's not easy, but it's a time of hope and unity. Well, I certainly hope so. The end period is humanity scattered across a myriad of solar systems, star systems with no central connection or core identity. Isolated and alone, humanity fades into stagnation. That's actually pretty dark, unfortunately. Write each period on a card with an empty or filled circle for light or dark. Once again, you're doing this with index cards, but hey, if you have a virtual tabletop, you could basically just create tiles and sort of use those as graphical representations. Then, of course, you need to palette the thing. That is by basically making columns and picking and choosing from your options. Each player can add one thing, either a yes or no. Add something to the yes column you think the other players would not expect it to be in the history, but you want to be able to include it. Add something to the no column if you think the other players would expect it to be in the history, but you don't want it included. So this is where you're trying to anticipate what the other players are going to want, and you're sort of blocking, like the no column is you like outright being like blocking them, be like, nope, that's a trope. No tropes. We're not doing that. And a yes column is trying to think outside the box. So I like that because it's an engine. It's a system for creating new content, right? Not something that is super derivative. You're sort of like canceling out stuff that could be a derivative. If every player did add something, either yes or no, repeat step 1. Each player has the option to go again. If something opted not to add something, stop. Your palette is done. So as soon as somebody decides not to do so. In the end, no player will have added 2 things more than anyone else. Feel free to discuss and negotiate. No one should be unhappy about what winds up. If something is in the yes column, then during the rest of the game, it's okay to introduce it into the history, even if it doesn't seem like it fits. You've all agreed it belongs. If something is in the no column, it's never okay to bring it into the game no matter what. You've all agreed it's not part of the history. So I imagine that it's going to require some negotiation at the table to figure out what's going to go into the history of this world. The palette is not an exhaustive list of what will be in the history. It's a list of exceptions. If something fits the setting, you probably don't need to add it to the yes column because the other players already expect it. Naturally, so some tropes make their way in because they're expected. Likewise, if something seems really out of place, you probably don't need to add it to the no column unless you think the other players want to include it. So you're working within the gray between both of those when you're putting together the palette. Now, we get to talk about what the first pass is. This is the step 4, which means the group decisions, they've come to a close. Each player gets to add basically just one more detail to the history. It could be a new period, or it could be an event, yada yada. To add a period, place it between any 2 adjacent periods, then give a short description on what happens during that time. Say if the tone is light or dark. An event is specific thing that happens inside a period, like a prince seizing the throne or a colony ship arriving in a new world. Each period and event, write them in a separate index card as you create them, orient the cards. So you could already see here that each index card is sort of listed out in, you figure out an optimal order for it. You can see that events are dictated. Unifiers conquer multiple star systems. So it seems like upright is periods, and then on the side are events. So you order them like so. What you write on the card is just a placeholder for the description you give the other players. What you say is more important than what is on the card. Always speak first. Make sure the players hear and understand you. Now you know a lot more about your history than when you started, and you're ready to start regular play. That's before you even play the game. It's you just coming up with the bits and pieces. The framework. Now, when you're actually playing the game, decide which player will start. That player becomes the first lens. So instead of players, you're playing as lenses, different lenses of what the specifics happen within that timeline. You declare the focus, part of the history you're going to explore right now. You make history, creating either a period, event, or scene. The lens goes first, then go around the table to the left. What you create must relate to the current focus. The lens can choose to create 2 things on her turn, so as long as they are nested inside each other. Either a new event plus a scene inside that event, or a new period plus an event inside that period. And then lens finishes the focus. After each player has taken a turn, the lens gets to go again and add another period, event, or scene. This lets the lens have the last word about the focus. But of course, over time, whoever is the lens changes. After all players have addressed the focus, we take a step back and examine legacies, elements of the history we want to remember to explore later on. Choosing a new legacy, player to the right of the lens picks something from play. They pick out something that's already in play and make it a legacy. The same player creates an event or dictated scene that relates to one of the legacies. Either the one just created. And then the player to the left of the lens becomes the new lens. Clear as mud. There's obviously this is a PDF that's a lot of letters and words and not a lot of pictures. But that is a-okay because it is very theater of the mind, as you can imagine. In picking the focus, basically jumping all over the time frame to figure out where in particular you want to focus in on. So here's an example. The new focus is going to be the sinking of the Gabriel Dora. It's a luxury liner that goes down mysteriously. So first, I'm making a new event where the ship sinks in the North Atlantic with no known survivors. And that's an event. Write down each focus and who chosen on the cards. As the history unfolds, you can look back and see how you explored it. If the new lens is interested in a previous focus, they could pick the same focus again or pick a related focus that looks at things from a different angle. The old focus was President Galveston, patriarch of the Lone Star Republic. During play, we found out he died in office, eaten away by illness. There's that blob we're talking about. The new lens wants to explore that. So she makes the new focus the last days of Galveston's presidency. So hopefully you get to understand what the game means by fractal building. You're starting in the center, and then it is sort of snowflaking out as time goes on and creating more and more branches. So this is a very, very open-ended game. Super open-ended. It does not provide you a framework whatsoever. Not a framework on setting. You are literally creating that setting from scratch. And then, of course, on the turn of a lens, you can create history. You can, base that upon periods, events, or scenes. Now, it doesn't describe scenes previously. So we can take a look at that. However, there is this important block of text that says you build on each other. When you describe a period, event, or a setup for a scene, sell it. You have to pitch your vision to the players. Paint a picture in vivid colors, breathe life into it. Other players can't veto, but if they aren't interested or don't understand your idea, they won't build on it. Microscope is all about building on each other's ideas. Hey, let's bring it in for a moment. Let's bring it in. Heart poof. So, none of these games can be played with an individual. All of these games must be played with a group at the table, with a group in the Discord channel, with a group that is there and ready to play and ready to build off of each other. And that's why games like these are so fun, is you come up with all sorts of intricate connections as you're playing the game through yourself, but also through the minds of the players at the table. That makes for some extremely compelling world building opportunities. You get to sort of, you don't necessarily, I'll go back. You don't necessarily vote per se. Nobody can veto anybody's ideas, but people should be compelled. You should be able to compel people to build off of it and to make it more fleshed out. Otherwise, it'll get submerged under the many options that may come up during the game. So definitely some negotiation going on there. As we return. But of course, it says don't collaborate. Nothing will kill your game faster than playing by committee. So while you're working together, you're actually not necessarily collaborating. When it's somebody else's turn, when it's somebody else's turn, don't coach. Explaining the rules is fine, but don't suggest ideas. Even if another player wants ideas, don't give them. Let them come up with something. Be interested in what other players create, ask questions, demand clarification. If there are contradictions, point them out, but resist the urge to make suggestions, even tiny ones. You've already inspired them with your contributions to the history. Now wait and see what they do with it. Keep your poker face. Poker face. If you collaborate and discuss ideas as a group, you'll get very smooth, very boring history. But if you wait and let people come up with their own ideas, they may take the history in surprising and fascinating directions. It can be hard to sit silently and watch someone think, but the results can be awesome. You'll get a chance to interact more fluidly when you roleplay scenes. Which is where we are about to approach. Oh, except nuking Atlantis. Okay. Or can I just say that guy is dead? Doesn't matter who created the Gleaming City on the Hill or who played that character in the last scene. If it's your turn, you can do whatever you want. No one owns anything in the history. You can make an event and say, this is when the prophet gets assassinated, or this is when that awesome city you guys have been building about gets nuked. Boom. You have nigh unlimited power when it is your turn, so long as you don't contradict what's already been established. Don't pull your punches. Killing a character or nuking a city doesn't remove it from the game, because you can always go back in time and explore what it was like when it was still around. Which is precisely why this game is not tied specifically to temporal progression. You can jump around in the timeline. You can tell the stories that are never, you can tell the stories that are supposed to be told. Now, here's how scenes work. Scenes are the smallest units of history. They show us exactly what happens at a specific place, at a specific time with specific people. Create a scene, you pose a question, something you want to find out about the history. The goal of the scene is to decide the answer to that question. We start off the scene without an answer and discover it through play. The question can tell us something crucial to history. Why did the king betray the country? It can give us a window into what life was like in that time and place. Are the asteroid miners happy with their rugged frontier lives? Is another question. Or just examine something that isn't important to the grand scheme of things, but is interesting to the players. Did the soldier get to marry his hometown sweetheart? If you want to make a scene, not that kind of scene. If you want to make a scene, but you want to answer the question yourself instead of letting other players participate, you can choose to dictate the scene instead. When you dictate a scene, you describe what happens and narrate the answers to your own question, just like making a period or event. Making dictated scenes is covered a little bit later. Basically, you state a question, you set the stage, you choose characters, you reveal thoughts. Chase is made by each player going around the table. Questions on the stage. We talked a little bit about that. Okay, so we are getting definitely a gist of how Microscope works as a game. It's very intriguing. It's very has a lot of potential. Here's a secret. Light or dark are entirely subjective. They depend on who you're rooting for. Raiders sacking a thriving port city. Do you think the people in the city are basically good people? If so, then you probably think it's dark that they wiped them out. But what if those same citizens were despicable tyrants, oppressing their neighbor with fear and military might? Now those raiders look like the purging hand of justice, come to wipe out evil and bring justice, and you might consider it light. There's no right or wrong answer. I like this system so far. I like this system because it does a good job coaching you, the players, on how to best run the system. It's consistently reminding you to proceed with a particular mindset, to not get attached to your own ideas, and neither to enforce your ideas on other people, to let things flow through freely, to let things flow freely, and to just build off of each other's stuff. That is ultimately the goal of this game. We're going to come back to this one last time and kind of skim through the rest of it, see if there's anything that is super noteworthy. I need water. Chat, I need hydration. It's important. Anyways, we're going to skim through the rest of this, and we're going to see if anything really jumps out. By the way, I should mention that Microscope is a game that is created by Ben Robbins. You could actually find Microscope on Lame Mage Productions website, which is www.lamemage.com. So for that case, I will do precisely that to paste it into chat so that it is available to all of you if anybody is interested in grabbing it. It is, I believe it's just $10. So yippee-ki-yay. All right. Okay, hold on a second. When you're playing out scenes, you have to answer the question. You cannot change the future. Well, that's important because you're jumping around the timeline. So you have to know if something is going to end up a particular way, but then it has to end up that way. You can shape the world, and what you see is what you get. Such as, what are some examples it provides? You can make new things happen or reveal facts about the environment or world. Example, you want an alien fleet to appear, so you describe your character watching a sensor array and seeing the blips appear as they warp in. It's an alien fleet. But you want the president, a character nobody is playing, to be an android. So right after another player shoots him, you describe examining the body and seeing sparking circuits and wires in the wound. Boom, he's an android. You must also describe your character reacting to what he or she perceives. You're role-playing in the moment, not just playing a story. The example for that is, my Secret Service agent looks up from the president's android body and he can't believe his eyes. He says, I don't understand. How can that be possible? Another option is to intentionally introduce something incomplete and then pass the ball to another player. You describe your character noticing strange runes on the floor of the tomb, then ask another player, Doc, do you think that writing explains what happened here? I can't make heads or tails of it. Can you read it? Everybody's improving. I love this. I love improv. But you're improving roleplay to create something larger out of it. Speaking truth or hearsay. Sometimes you just have to have your character say things about the world to establish that they're true. So you're telling, but you're creating by telling. The soldier says, no one is coming to save you. The 7th Legion was slaughtered in the passes. We're on our own. It looks over the parapet grimly, ready for the final battle. If you can't explain how your character perceived what you're describing, you can't establish that it's true. It can only be its opinion. And there is an opinion there. Thinking out loud. So basically, it's just giving you different ideas of how you can pursue scenes when you're running a particular character in that scene. Okay. A lot of this goes into the same discipline that writers find out about points of view, showing versus telling, stuff like that. And then it gives a whole big example. Dictating scenes. This is where you create this, you ask the question and then you create your own scene. Obviously, in the way that this PDF is formatted, it very much does not want the dictation of scenes to happen a whole lot. That doesn't do a whole lot of good for individuals that want to participate and bounce off each other's ideas. Phoenix V popping in, saying, cool shirt. Well, thank you very much, my friend. It is a pride shirt. I celebrated today exploring and going to the open streets. That is to say, open streets is a thing that happens in the Twin Cities area to different particular streets where no cars are allowed to drive on those streets, only people and bikes, and it's a whole like street festival thing. It's great. Then there's legacies. Now I'm trying to understand legacies. A legacy can take many forms: an object, a person, a place, a bloodline, an organization, or even a philosophical idea. The ideals of the founding fathers, a code of laws, a noble order of knights, an ancestral curse, or a sword fallen from the heavens. These are all legacies. So stuff that will live on past the event or period. Betrayal is not a valid legacy because it's a generic concept. The betrayal of the Sea Tribes does work because it's something specific that happened in the story. Style of play, getting in the Microscope mindset. So, talking about mindsets. The history will not turn out the way you expected. Abandon your preconceptions. That's what I said. Abandon your preconceptions. What other players add will surprise you, but what you add will probably surprise them too. That's good. The history you arrive at will be far more interesting than if you planned it out by committee and consensus. No player owns anything in the history. Another player can take a beautiful metropolis you lovingly introduced and destroy it with nuclear fire, but they can't change what's already happened. Even if something is destroyed, it is never removed from play, because you can always jump back in time and explore when it was still around. The past is never closed. When it's your turn to add to the history, don't negotiate or discuss what you are making. Don't take a poll. It's your decision. You have absolute power. Likewise, don't ask a player to change something just because you don't like it. Speak first, then write. When someone else is making something you don't have a clear picture or don't understand how it fits, ask questions. So, this, my friends, is Microscope. Now, how do we end the game of Microscope? That's a big question. We got started with all of this. That is to say, everybody's contributing something. It's a yes and sort of game. You are not voting on anything. Nobody votes on anything. No voting. No voting. There is no voting in this game. Everybody gets to add something. Given that the game's all about delving deeper and deeper, it may not surprise you that Microscope has no defined ending. There are no victory conditions, no goal except to create something that interests you. Play for as long as you want, then stop. Storing your history. When you're done playing, you can keep your history intact by just stacking the cards in order. First, pick up the starting period card. Yep, I know how to stack cards. Hey, chat. Gotta ask you a question. Come closer. Do you know how to stack cards? Do you know how to put cards on top of each other? Do you know how that works? Has anybody out there played Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh? Or with normal cards? You know how to stack cards, right? You do this. Boop. Boop. And you do it in order. Anyways, I apologize for my facetiousness. Let us continue here. Continuing your history. Roller 300 said, so everything is on the table until someone flips it. You can flip the table, but there's nothing stopping the fact that the table was set up in the first place. You can't say no table, but you can flip the table. You're correct. And then if somebody wants to create an event between the time when the table was set up and the table was flipped, they can do that as well. But then they could also ask, why was the table flipped? And then they go, and then they can actually dictate what the argument was, what happened after it was flipped, stuff like that. And what about Gwent? I've never played Gwent in real life, only on The Witcher. So that is digital. May not count. Phoenix V says, eventually Vorn will be able to use the table as an improvised weapon. Eventually, once I get my second feat. Table as an improvised weapon. Orgoth, let's say Vorn rather. Vorn is becoming a real Dudley boy. So, continuing on your history, still fascinated with the history you've played, probably left the table with more ideas than you started with. You can easily return to a history and keep exploring it session after session. The one caveat is that you can't add new players to an existing game. Playing Microscope requires a strong understanding of what has already happened and a confidence in your creative authority, no matter how much you brief players who weren't in the history. And here we get to see a bunch of, it teaches me how to teach my Microscope. First, what is Microscope? How to teach other people how to play the game. That's nice. I'm glad that they did that. Play advice. What's a good idea for history? Lots of room. So a really big concept. No preconceptions. Get out of here with your preconceptions. They're not important. Don't bring preconceived notions to the table. Come up with new ones. No one owns the history. Nobody owns the history whatsoever. Beware time travel and immortality. Microscope does let you jump around and explore the past or the future at will, which lets you move away from topics that don't interest you and focus on ones that do. Because of that, anything that collapses time undermines the game. Time travel is a perfect example. If the characters within the fiction can move backwards and forwards in time, the ability of the players to jump backwards and forwards is meaningless. The game becomes linear again at that point. Immortality is similar problems. It can work if lots of characters are just immortal, like pantheons of gods. But if immortality is a special trait of just one or a few characters, they may hog the spotlight. Not Dr. Lazarus again. Another good rule of thumb is never to have character lives span more than one period, since that starts to weld adjacent periods together. Then talks about the number of players and sort of gives a general idea of what the good flow for that is. How do I make a good focus? How do I make a good question? Implied incidents. Keep track of what's not on the table. Incomplete ideas. Blind man's bluff. All right. And that, my friends, is what we call Microscope. Once again, Microscope is a very interesting way to go about the creation of a setting or a story. It is a game that I have not played. I've not seen it played. But it is super duper open-ended, like really open-ended. Now, let's say, for example, you're somebody that wants to use it as a way of creating a setting. The Microscope is very much built in a way of not bringing preconceived notions. So it's hard to meld it into a preconceived idea of what the setting should be. So if you're looking for that starting from scratch and just building from square one, if everybody is ready for something fresh, something out there, something that is not anything that they could name yesterday, in other words, something that's brand new, then Microscope is a fantastic game for that. Microscope, again, you can find Microscope at lamemage.com, and it's worth $10. So hey, if you're somebody who if you want to just have fun brainstormy, game sessions with friends around a table about, coming up with an alternate history or coming up with a alternate world or something like that, Microscope is a fantastic option. Now, that is one of the three. The other two I want to cover are Kingdom and The Quiet Year. Now, Kingdom and The Quiet Year are different because these are games where you can, if you want to, introduce your own preconceived ideas. You can. Although it still requires that it really does require that you bounce off each other and you just kind of see how things go. But the other two can work within a particular framework that you've already built. So if you know exactly what sort of setting you want, how you want things to sort of begin or end in that setting, then you can play one of these other games. You could play Kingdom or you can play The Quiet Year. Let me go ahead and see if I can bring up Kingdom. Now, I had to port this over from my laptop, so hopefully it was able to pop on in. Almost. Oh, there we are. This one is also one that you can find on lamemage.com. I'm actually really excited. I'm really excited and really happy about this group, Lame Mage, because it seems to me like they both created something that is just so good, so unique. A way for an individual to sort of carve their own ideas and carve their own destiny. So, with some minor adjustments to the screen, make sure we are encapsulating the fullness of our depiction. Let's talk about the next one, which is Kingdom. This is called Kingdom. But before I get into Kingdom, hey, hello. Gift of Gabby 1 has hit that follow button. You know what, Gabby? You know what I'm feeling right now? You know what I'm feeling right now in this moment? This is what I'm feeling. Boom. Thank you very much for following. I sincerely appreciate it. And thank you very much for popping in. And feel free to lurk if you wish. But we're going to talk about Kingdom. Kingdom is also created by Lame Mage Productions. It is a TTRPG about creating a kingdom, as it is presumed from the name of it. But it doesn't need to be a kingdom. It can be a faction. It can be a chess club in high school. You can make whatever you want out of it. That's one thing I really like about it as a concept. So as I adjust this to fit my window proper, and then do this thing. There we go. Welcome to Kingdom. It's a role-playing game about communities by also Ben Robbins. Lame Mage Productions. Second edition, so I guess there was a first edition. This was literally created a year ago. Ben, you hit the jackpot, Ben. Look at this. Look at all of that you've created. There's 2 games. 2 games. Sim Roller 300 says sim feudalism. You could absolutely do a traditional kingdom. You could just go at it like that if you wanted to. But here is the table of contents. So we're going to be talking about kingdoms in general. We're going to be talking about your kingdom. We're going to be talking about how the story setup works. How different kind of brains. Actually, yes, different kinds of brains can come together to create something really awesome. And then it gives us a bunch of kingdom seeds, a bunch to work with out of the gate. Now, this is where I get to share with you, my friends, that I have a very particular interest, because I am going to be running a 24-hour Worldbuilding stream in the near future to celebrate reaching that 300 number for followers. But here's to the shtick. It's not actually going to be a 24-hour stream. It's going to be 2 12-hour streams, one day after the other. So it'll probably be on a weekend, or it'll be like a Friday, Saturday thing. The reason I'm doing that is because I need sleep. I need to be able to actually take a break, because doing world building for 24 hours, that's a lot of brain juice being used up in 24 hours. And that is just going to create a whole chunk of me just making that face all night. And I don't want that. I want to have energy. I want to actually go through, some of these games. I want to play some of these games with some people to sort of help build that out. And in helping to build that out, I basically will, those individuals and myself will collaborate upon a seed of a setting, which will have all sorts of great opportunity for me to continue using that 24-hour period to build out something that I can then turn into an exciting Dungeons and Dragons actual play. I have been doing actual plays on this channel for a minute, which is a good opportunity for me to mention that I don't only stream on Sunday, my friends. I do also stream on Thursdays. I stream a game called Tales of Siglasia, which is within the Auroraverse. The Auroraverse. We're not talking about the My Little Pony Auroraverse, by the way. This is a completely different Auroraverse. Project Aurora is what it's called, and it is a project and community that I am a part of. I don't lead, but I am a part of it, one of the main DMs, where there are many DMs, many campaigns, many more players, and then one universe where all these take place around. There are a bunch of campaigns which oftentimes reference events that happen in each other, because they're all existing in the same cosmos, basically. So if that is something that you're interested in, if you like Dungeons and Dragons, you like tabletop, you like Dungeons and Dragons, tabletop gaming, if you like the whole aspect of creating something in a world that is a community collaborative thing and leaving your mark, then I would say joining Project Aurora is probably something that is something you should do. So please go over there and please click on that Discord link. Say hello. Say greetings to everybody. Tell them Chaotic and Raider sent you. We have Phoenix V that says, what? No, need sleep? No sleep. Sleep is bad. Sleep is bad for who? Is it bad for me? Or is it bad for the no-dos industry? The industry responsible for creating no-dos and other such medications for keeping people awake. Is it cutting into their profits, Phoenix V? Is that what's happening? Is my sleep cutting in to their profits? Because if that's so, then I say it's time to rise up. And when I say rise up, I mean lay down and go to sleep. because I'll need sleep. I can't do a 24-hour stream. I can't just do 24 hours straight of world building. I have to do 2 12-hour streams because that way I can actually get some sleep. Anyways, reading on the list. Roller 300 says must cat nap. Yes, you're absolutely right. I absolutely must. And I do have a cat, and my cat does chill with me while I sleep and does paw at my face right before I need to get up. And all of that needs to happen. And then, of course, Gift to Gabby says, due to you requiring a minute before I can... Oh, is that what it's... Oh, I guess that is a setting. Well, that's okay. I guess that's... I'll have to review that setting. I'm trying to remember why I set that setting up. I think it was because I got hit with a few bot waves in the past. And that I set that up in order to sort of stem that a little bit, and it worked for a bit. But then, yeah, it requires people to wait for a minute. So I apologize for that. I should review that setting, but I do appreciate your patience. And so let's go back. Let's talk more about Kingdom, the tabletop game where you create a kingdom. That is right here. So, reviewing over the table of contents, you kind of have a general idea that getting into the mindset of what this game is about, which I think is very important because all of these are very brain-centric theater of the mind games, right? Now, with that said, having a pen and paper or having a whiteboard or having a virtual tabletop that you can put stuff on is a very useful and very helpful tool to using a game like this. Again, this is Kingdom, brought to you by Ben Robbins. And this, again, was made... this was published just this past year, so fresh out the bakery. On top of that, you can actually find this at www.lamemage.com, this Lame Mage Productions. They have a couple of really cool tabletop games that are very much oriented in building a world through playing the game. And that is exactly why I'm excited to dig into this one, because this is one that I'm going to be running in the near future. I'm going to be running during that 24-hour stream period. Kingdoms are all around us. Groups are stronger than individuals, naturally. In a kingdom, we can work together to do great things. Because if you're part of a kingdom, it makes demands on you too. You're pressured to do what it thinks is right. The question becomes, do you change the kingdom or does the kingdom change you? Kingdom is the game term for the community or organization that is the focus of the game. So essentially, a kingdom can be anything. It can be an actual kingdom, or it could be a neighborhood watch organization. It could be a superhero troop. It could be as I mentioned, it could be a school chess club. It could be a school chess club filled with anime characters who fight demons in secret, and the chess club is actually a cover. That tracks. It tracks. Oh, look, an anime fan club. There you go. Except instead of it being about anime, it is anime, right? Or the first settler on Mars. Basically, the first individuals to make landing upon Mars, and they have to choose what to do with the colony. So the idea with the game Kingdom is you create a kingdom, and you watch it burn. The game is about seeing what happens to the kingdom and the people in it. How the characters change the kingdom, how it changes them. As players, we all have equal authority to influence the story. It's up to each of us to push the kingdom in directions we find interesting. What will our kingdom do? What will it become? Will it stay true to its ideals, our ideals? Or will we burn it to the ground? The kingdom's fate is in our hands. So to play it, you are actually creating a character. This is not like Microscope, where you are basically just, all you're doing is creating the timeline in a fractal pattern. This one, you are actually playing a character. Copy of all 3 role cards. There are multiple roles to play, and I believe you need at least 1 of each role. If you have 3 players, then each of them have to choose a different role. If you have more than 3 players, you could have a couple double up. Then you need a counter to show whose turn it is. It could be a chess piece, or you could just write current player on an index card. In my case, if I was running this, I would be using a virtual tabletop like Foundry, and I would be doing it on stream. I'd have the assets showing. So you can kind of get a gist for what my plans might be with this. A few sheets of blank paper, naturally, about a dozen index cards, and then you need pencils or pens. Or if everybody's on a stream and everybody's got a computer, they can do all those things. Now you can actually grab character sheets from lamemage.com. Important sections of the rules have been written so you can read them and allowed to explain the game. Your kingdom. Before we tell our story, we need to create our kingdom and the characters who are at the center of our kingdom. You know what, chat? You know what we could do? Instead of me just talking about this, we could, I don't know if it would necessarily count as playing Kingdom, but we could just like throw some stuff together and just see what we come up with. I'm not necessarily going to be writing it down, but it is something that's worth just sort of giving this a spin. So you know what? I think that would be actually a fantastic opportunity to create a poll and see what is our kingdom. I'll tell you what though, the Living Scarecrow, famous Twitch member, the Living Scarecrow. There is only one Living Scarecrow, and that Living Scarecrow has followed the stream. I am honored. Thank you very much. I sincerely appreciate you showing up here. Let me know if there's a way I can get your autograph. Actually, I got your autograph. It's down there. So thank you very much for hitting follow. I sincerely appreciate it. Now, I want to put together a poll. What is their kingdom? A traditional kingdom, a traditional fantasy kingdom, or just traditional kingdom. What are some other suggestions, do you think, chat? What are some other options that we can add to this poll in terms of different poll? That's what I wanted. What is our kingdom? Traditional fantasy kingdom. Traditional fantasy land. We could choose a pirate ship. We could choose a thoughts and feelings. Thoughts and feelings. A cult. Kool-Aid cult. We'll call it the Kool-Aid cult. The Living Scarecrow says, why hello there. How's my lovely people doing? I'm doing fantastic. It's great to see you. Mushroom Kingdom. Oh, Satire Mushroom Kingdom. Oh. Satire Mushroom Kingdom. I mean, I feel like I know which ones y'all are gonna choose anyways, like a parody. I get it. I mean, that would be pretty fun. That actually would be pretty fun. So I'm gonna start this poll. I feel like I already know which one you're gonna choose because there's only one on that list that is ultimately going to end up becoming the actually I feel like so I'm looking at the results already for this poll. Remember, anybody in chat, you can click on the poll that is up top and you can vote to see what our kingdom is going to be. Now, of course, if you do if you want to defer that to other people, you certainly can. However, right now we have one for traditional Fantasyland, one for pirate ship, and one for Kool-Aid cults. We only have like 10 seconds, maybe even 5 seconds left on the poll, so we need a tiebreaker somewhere. So, anybody can jump in and break that tie. Otherwise, if it's going to be a three-way tie, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, it's a three-way tie. Oh no! Oh no, chat! What are we going to do? Traditional Fantasyland, pirate ship, Kool-Aid cult. But then, so we're split 4 ways, therefore. Because if we had Mushroom Kingdom, Traditional Fantasyland, Pirate Ship, and Kool-Aid Cult. You know what, chat? Yeah, let's go Traditional Fantasyland if we want. I think that might be the way to go, but I think Creative Fantasy because the sky's the limit. You know what? That's fair. We can incorporate a little bit of each thing in there. Perhaps there is a Dread pirate ship in this traditional Fantasyland. Perhaps there is a Kool-Aid cult in this traditional Fantasyland. Now, we're going to need to create the kingdom. Follow these steps to create your kingdom. Write your answers on a blank piece of paper so you can refer to it while you play. What is your kingdom? So we've sort of already figured it out. Brainstorm a concept for kingdom. It could be any community or any group of people with a common cause. Give your kingdom a name. So why don't we call this the Shroomy Kingdom? Shroomy Kingdom is a booming kingdom surrounded, let's say surrounded by the sea. It is in the midst of pirate infested waters and has a Kool-Aid cult problem. It is run by a famous plumber. Boom. There we go. That's our kingdom concept. It's dank due to moisture. Oh, you're right. It is dank due to moisture. It could be very, very foggy, very misty. Then, of course, aside from coming up with the kingdom itself, we need to come up with threats. Now, for threats, I think that's pretty self-explanatory from our options here. Pirates is one threat. There's also this Kool-Aid cult. But we need one more threat. I would say we need three threats. Famous plumber better be one in green. Okay, yeah, let's make it Luigi. Luigi finally gets the spotlight. Luigi is the leader. Okay, so the Living Scarecrow mentions, I think, Creative Fantasy because the sky's the limit. Also writing a new book series when I'm not working. Awesome. I appreciate fellow writers jumping into the stream. What I am running on the stream is very specifically what I'm running on the stream. So unfortunately, I'm not able to display or show other people's work. Phoenix V says a kingdom of kobold spore druids ? Oh, could be. Oh, so that could be the third thing, rivaling Kobold Kingdom. Oh, they're Koopas. It's a rivaling Kobold Kingdom. Oh, that makes perfect sense actually, when you really think about it, because Koopas are kobolds. When you really truly think about it, threats are only a starting point. They get everyone on the same page about what the kingdom is concerned about when the game begins, and they can give you ideas for trouble or introduce during play. Then locations. Each player describes a location in the kingdom, some place where characters are likely to be found and to interact. Players can go in any order. After each player has made one, each player goes again, makes a second location. Now, of course, we're doing this as a way to just sort of entertain the game. We're not necessarily playing a full session of Kingdom. However, we are collectively just kind of throwing things together and just seeing how it works, how it would theoretically work with this game. So when I think of locations, we're gonna need to do the Luigi's castle. That is to say, Luigi does have his own castle. That's going to be the first location in this kingdom. And I would like to open the gates to all of y'all if you want to add a location that we can work with. But of course, that is completely up to your discretion. Allow me to continue on here. After each player's made one, each player goes again and makes a second location. An example here is locations in our feudal realm include the windswept battlements overlooking the sea, or the old chapel in the keep, and the mossy forest where nobles hunt stag. Locations flesh out your physical kingdom and make you give places to roleplay later on. Give them names and people in the kingdom that people in the kingdom would use so your characters can talk about them. So you can even draw a map of your kingdom and show all your locations. Phoenix B says, the Mushroom Kingdom's burger restaurant's ice cream machine is broken. Adventurer needs to find the pieces to repair it and cool themselves with ice cream. So a location in this case would be the Mushroom burger food chain. That's a location. One of many locations, but we'll just say burger food chain. So we got Luigi's Castle, got burger food chain. As a matter of fact, I think it would be good for me to get an actual factual list going. So let's do that. In order to do so, I will need to open up my OneNote. Add page. All right. Let's go. So we're going to copy this, and then I'm going to paste it as a duplicate. And pasting it as a duplicate, I'm going to assign this second one to become OneNote. OneNote. Boomski Doomski. Boom. Now it says Worldbuilding Wednesday is up top. Just ignore that. I'm gonna eradicate that. Boom, it's done. It's gone. Gone forever. Okay, cool. So, Shroomy Kingdom. What did I say before? I said Shroomy Kingdom is a booming kingdom surrounded by the sea. The 3 threats to it are pirates, the Kool-Aid cult, and the rivaling Kobold Kingdom. And then, of course, locations. The Luigi Castle, or Luigi's Castle. The Burger Food franchise. Bum, 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 bum. Now, you say pizza. Phoenix V did say Burger Restaurant's ice cream machine is broken. So we can see also a competitive pizza franchise is also a location. I would say pizza is rival. Hey, it makes sense. Once again, we're doing yes and, not necessarily replacing, overwriting one idea with another. We are adding ideas. Hence the missing shrooms. Oh, that could be. Missing shrooms. I'm going to say that there is a indoor super mall theme park. Indoor super mall theme park. Now, if you know where I'm from, you'll know exactly what I'm referring to. Anyways, Captain Skilly Koopa as the pirate leader. Ooh, so we also need to come up with characters, right? Character. Captain Skilly Koopa. Pirate leader. We need a chum bucket actually, because we are surrounded by the ocean. Chum bucket. That is a necessary location that we need. And then we need the bouncy castle, which is located somewhere. There's a dry Koopa in Mario games. Can't remember their names. I think Skelekoopa, Dry Koopa. Usually, I think it's Dry Koopa, but it works one way or another. Okay, so what do we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I imagine 2 more will do it for locations. Once again, here to just kind of come up with fun, interesting ideas. Now, I imagine that Bouncy Castle is not insignificant. A medieval arcade hall. Ooh, man, Luigi's been investing in quite an amusement park on his little island. Bouncy Castle within our theme park, which is the indoor super mall theme park. Why don't we say there is an indoor super mall theme park information booth, and then in it we have a bouncy castle, and inside of that we also have a medieval arcade hall. We also have the chum bucket, and that's out in the ocean somewhere. Then a mystical forest of bones. All right, I think we have a handful of locations. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 locations. Then a chum bucket. Now, I guess here's the question. Is the chum bucket in the ocean, or is it in the theme park? Is it a theme park attraction? I guess that's my question. There's all sorts of, the sky's the limit here. We are creating a kingdom, and it looks like this kingdom is its own theme park, ruled by Luigi Mario. All right. So it was Builters that added the chum bucket. So Builters says, also, thank you very much, Builters, for popping in. Hello, hello. Thank you very much for enjoying the stream. So Builters says in the ocean. And then, of course, we have a mystical forest of bones. We have a medieval arcade hall, bouncy castle, indoor super mall, theme park, information booth. And I should preface the rest of this stuff with their ridiculously long name. Oh, so we have a character, which is a sea toad creature. All right, so as I'm writing that stuff out, let's go back to here just so that we have keep it in line with our order. Yep, as I figured, we're doing people. So now we're creating people for this kingdom. This kingdom is going to have some kooky characters. One of those people it's going to be Luigi. Luigi Mario is going to be one of the characters for sure. And then, of course, we have a Skelekoopa Capitan. And then, while I'm at it here, let me actually adjust my webcam settings. It's getting quite bright. We're going to remove the exposure limit. We're going to do the gain up manually, and that's a little less obnoxious. Good. I like that. Okay. Petty Peter Piper. Individual named Petty Peter Piper. Petty Peter Piper. Okay. So, sea toad creature. We also need Luigi Mario. Who is Petty Peter Piper, I wonder? Is Petty Peter Piper the name of the sea toad? I'm also going to suggest that we have a super mall manager. The super mall manager. That 55-year-old dude who thinks he's still 20 and goes to the rave parties. 50-year-old raver. All right, sweet. We have a raver. We've got a sea toad creature, Skelekoopa. Now, how the character section works, because we're kind of going off kilter a little bit, is what kind of people would be part of the kingdom. Brainstorm a list of character ideas. You can create specific individuals or categories of people, which we're doing basically. Basically like a reluctant colonist, a doctor, stowaway, captain, pretender to the throne, political prisoner. Single concepts are all you need right now. Then this is where we make the characters. Each player now creates a main character they will use to explore the fate of the kingdom. Afterwards, we'll each create a minor character who are also part of the kingdom, but who provide a supporting cast for our story. There are 3 roles total. One is called the power, one is called perspective, and one is called touchstone. The power is the authority over the kingdom. They decide what the kingdom does and what it doesn't do. The perspective is basically like a seer. They understand the kingdom, both its merits and flaws. They can foresee the consequences of the decisions the kingdom makes. Then there's the touchstone, which is you reflect on the desires of the people of the kingdom. Your attitudes show us what the populace wants and how they are reacting to what's happening. So somebody who is like a speaker of the people, right? So this here is not a guide. This here is what is known as Kingdom. It is located at www.lamemage.com. I think it's lamemage. Let's go back up and cross-check here. Yes, lamemage.com. So this is a tabletop game for creating a kingdom, and this could basically help build the seed of a tabletop game, or build the seed of a kingdom that exists in that tabletop game. It helps you kind of determine what's how you want to build out the history of this kingdom and what the decisions are made. Potentially, how did this kingdom come upon its current troubles, or how did it fall one way or the other? And so, as we're sort of going through this, crawling forward, bum, 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 your kingdom, make your kingdom, we're on characters. I would argue that if we're looking at our characters here, Luigi Mario is going to be a power character. Captain Skellicoopa, being that they're a pirate leader, I would argue that Skellicoopa is probably a touchstone character. They probably have some sort of clout with a certain populace within the kingdom that we're in. Then, of course, this sea toad creature that exists in the chum bucket, works in the chum bucket in the ocean, is probably also a touchstone character. Petty Peter Piper, this 50-year-old raver, I'd say they are a seer. So that is going to be a perspective character. Naturally, if we were playing the game, if we were legit playing the game and we were all players in a call actually running the game, we would all be choosing our own characters and stuff. But this is really just an exercise. That's what this is right now. It's just an exercise to see if we can show off a little bit about how this game works. I would also say the Super Mall Manager is a competitive power. And the URL is located right there. It is called Kingdom. It is not a world building checklist. It is a cooperative game with multiple players around a table. But it can also be used as a checklist of sorts. I'd say it's working as such. Then, of course, what we have Waluigi working in ticket booth of Super Mall, whining about never being picked for combat. All right. You want me to add Waluigi? I'll add Waluigi. I just need to make some adjustments to this thing right here. There we go. So I would say maybe that's a perspective character. Which is Waluigi. Yeah, I would say, like, for starting characters, that would certainly work. Now, the rules of the game itself does say that you are creating, each player creates a main character they will use to explore the fate of the kingdom. Afterwards, they'll create minor characters, which are also part of the kingdom, but provide supporting cast for our story. I would argue that we ought to, from our list, have, let's just say we have three or four main characters and 3 or more secondary characters. Waluigi is going to be a secondary character. I don't care what anybody says. They are a number 2. It tracks. Trust me, it tracks. Now, the first ones that we had to choose were Luigi Mario. Of course, yeah, that's the king. I'd say Captain Skellicoopa. Yeah, I'd say Captain Skellicoopa is also a primary character. Now, here's something that I want to bring up to complicate things. I would argue that we need a perspective character to be a... we could have Sea Toad... Actually, I'm going to say our Sea Toad creature is going to be a perspective character. And newsflash. Oh, that's not how I want to do this. Don't do it like that. I'll just put a 1 on 1 actually. Okay, 1, 1, 1. And then we have 2, 2, 2. So touch, perspective, power. Then we have I'd say Waluigi is probably a touchstone character, actually. Fourth, maybe a wild card. Let's do this then. Let's make the Super Mall manager a fourth main. And then, of course, we need to come up with 2 more secondaries. We're going to have a Dragon Turtle. Named Donatello. Probably a power character. And then 3, an animated object. Animated. So how does that work though? Because so we need as many primary as we need secondary. So it's 3 and 3 or it's 4 and 4. Animated, let's say an animated Boo painting. That might be the way to go. How does everybody feel about that? A perspective character who is an animated Boo painting. So those are our primaries and those are our secondaries. Now, if we went back here, every character must be part of the kingdom. Don't make a character who doesn't care or wouldn't be affected by what happens to the kingdom. I would argue, therefore, that everybody involved is in some way like they're just part of the kingdom. They could have maybe their own, rivalries, but they are still part of the kingdom. So touchstone, perspective, and power, those are the 3 types. Any character that is created must fall within those particular roles. There are no additional roles beyond that. Then, of course, we look at the list of locations, and then we pick 2 places where each character would be found. Some of this is actually would be pretty straightforward when we look at it. Captain Skella-Koopa would definitely... Oh, by the way, a location would be... I need to add a pirate ship because they need to be on a pirate ship. So they're going to be on a pirate ship and probably be in the chum bucket. That would make sense that the Captain Skella-Koopa would be there. But then also our Sea Toad creature would be in the chum bucket. Luigi Mario would definitely be in Luigi's castle. The Super Mall manager would be in the info booth. Our 50-year-old raver would probably be in the bouncy castle. We're gonna add a new one called Hidden Cove Underneath the Docks. Luigi is probably an individual who is in charge of the medieval arcade hall. I imagine. A dragon turtle named Donatello is gonna be probably inhabiting the mystical forest of bones and a part of the ocean. Then an animated Boo painting, probably in Luigi's castle. However, every single one of these characters needs 2 locations where they reside in. Waluigi. Would you say Waluigi? A hidden cove underneath the docks. So, who is Mr. Coin? In order to put a framework here, we have our 4 and 4 characters. We have our 8 characters. So, additional characters, there are no additional characters. So it's these 8 characters. So if we are to, what we're doing specifically is assigning locations to the characters. Also goes to the info booth complaining. Okay, so while Luigi likes visiting the info booth, complaining to the Super Mall manager. Then of course, Petty Peter Piper likes to go to the bouncy castle, but they're also probably a very hungry individual. Hey, do you think Petty Peter Piper is more about burgers or more about pizza? Is that something that I would like to? That's something that I would like to know. Are they more of a pizza person or are they more of a burger person? The other thing is our Captain Skeleton. We have a vote. Oh, we have a vote for pizza and a vote for burgers. Does anybody visit pizza franchise? Let's say pizza franchise for Petty Peter Piper. Let's say Mario is definitely a burger boy, or Luigi Mario is a burger boy. Our sea toad creature. There we go. Just to make sure that I have dictated that we have 2 for that one, 2 for that one. Waluigi. Always complaining, going to the info booth, but works in the medieval arcade hall. The animated Boo painting definitely exists in Luigi's castle. But the animated Boo painting, I don't know where else that Boo painting would end up. All right, and we have our sea toad creature in the chum bucket. And then we have our pirate ship. Does anybody else visit the pirate ship? I guess that's one of my questions. The dragon turtle probably can't go on the pirate ship, but they can probably swim with the pirate ship. Oh, hey, that's an idea. So Luigi's castle, and in the medieval arcade hall. I'll say the dragon turtle goes to the mystical forest of bones and then swims in the ocean, but near the pirate ship. Medieval arcade hall, an info booth for Waluigi, and then we have the bouncy castle and the pizza franchise for Petty Peter Piper. The Super Mall manager, definitely going to the info booth. Where else do they go? They tend to go to... They probably go to Luigi's castle a whole bunch, because, maybe they do. Oh, Sea Toad creature, definitely the cove. Probably frightening... Okay, hold on a sec. Let's do Sea Toad. Let's go Sea Toad creature. Chum bucket for sure, and then hidden cove. Pirate leader would probably be pirate ship, and... Oh, we're adding... So, Bilter says, but did you know that the dragon turtle is secretly in love with the rave dude? Well, we have some spicy connections already establishing. Skilla, Koopa, Ghost Pirate Ship, and I would argue Hidden Cove. Luigi's Castle, Super Mall Manager. I'd probably say Super Mall Manager does Info Booth and Burger franchise, because that's their opportunity to bug Luigi a whole bunch about what they want done with the mall. And, oh right, we have some locations. One for each character. Oh, you see, we're already ahead of the game. We gotta talk about bonds. Say what you need from them and what makes the relationship difficult. Describe your connection to the character to your left. So we're you know, once again, we're not actually establishing something that's long lasting here, but we are definitely going to establish something that is so locations, bonds. I don't want to do too much organization here, but I'm going to do this. Yikes. Don't do that, please. It's already looking all wonky, but that's fine. My organization is sort of breaking down already, but that is okay as long as we are able to kind of see what we mean here. Okay. So that's locations, but then we also need bonds. That's an important part of every character here. We need some just very bare bones basic bonds for both everyone. Oh shit, I did this wrong. Okay, so Waluigi, jealous of Luigi, wants the famous animated painting for himself. Well, okay. Jealous of Luigi wants painting for himself. What else we got here? Sea toad creature definitely in the cove. What do you know if the dragon turtle is secretly in love with the rave dude? Secretly in love with rave dude. Now here's the big question, chat. Dragon turtle is secretly in love with the rave dude, but is the rave dude in love with the dragon turtle? That's the even bigger question. Is it mutual? Because it might not be mutual. The Super Mall Manager has bonds with Luigi via constant lobbying. Oh dear, oh dear. So Bilter says, no, the rave dude is still hunting for 80. So the rave dude is Matthew McConaughey? Is all right, all right, all right. Oh dear. Bond. I don't know. I don't know if that's a bond I can add. That's not necessarily a bond. But that's a motivation. Looking to date girls in Bouncy Castle. All right, fine. Dragon Turtle wants Rave Dude, wants Sea Toad. Wants Rave Dude. Rave Dude wants the Sea Toad, and Sea Toad wants Dragon Turtle. Ooh, love triangle. Secretly in love with Sea Toad. Secretly in love with Dragon Turtle. So let's think about this then. So Petty Peter Piper goes to the Bouncy Castle and the pizza franchise. Thing is that he probably goes into the Bouncy Castle to bounce up and look over the wall, because looking over the wall is the ocean. At a very particular point where he can actually see where the chum bucket is located, and that's why he goes there. On the other hand, Sea Toad creature goes to the hidden cove because the Sea Toad creature knows that the Dragon Turtle comes by often. And then of course the Sea Turtle often, dishes out all the swooning for the raver, and tries to get the pirate leader to so secretly in love with Raid Dude, tries to get pirate leader to send love notes to Piper. Secretly in love with Sea Toad. Who else is in the Bouncy Castle? Who else goes to the Bouncy Castle? Who goes to the pizza franchise? I think that they're a loner. I think Petty Peter Piper is a loner. Skelekoopa, a secret admirer of Mario's mustache. Well, if they're a secret admirer of Mario's mustache, then Bonds won't stop talking to Luigi about Mario's mustache. And Luigi, Mario, is goes to Boo Painting for advice. Hates Captain Skelekoopa. And then Animated Boo Painting believes they're the real boss of the castle. Loves scaring the crap out of Waluigi. All right. So if I'm going off of I'm not necessarily going off of the rules all that much, because it says describe your connection to the character to your left. There's no table, so I'm just sort of making them up as we go. Say what you need from them, what makes the relationship difficult. Well, I would say that all of those things make the relationship difficult, right? Now that you finish your main characters from different roles, seems like a better fit. You can switch now. Step 5, minor character. Ooh. Each minor makes a minor character help flesh out. Take an idea from the list and give them a name and a brief description. So it seems To me, actually, the minor characters don't need relationship ties. But no, I'm gonna give them relationship ties. We've already come up with all of that stuff. All right. Your story. Now that we have our kingdom and our characters, we can play them and change how the kingdom rolls. Okay, so put your kingdom sheet with your threats and locations in the middle of the table. For the first crossroad, fold a blank sheet of paper in half. Fold a blank sheet of paper in half and write "Will the Kingdom" in the upper left and leave space. A crossroads in play would be like, will the kingdom abandon the damaged Juggernaut, the most powerful ship in our fleet? And then there's a vote between yes and no. Your turn. At the start of the game, pick a player to go first. If someone has an idea for a crossroad, they should start. On your turn, follow these steps. Each is explained in more detail later. You have to, if there's already crossroad play, that's the situation you're dealing with now. If you just finished the crossroad, make a new one now. Scene. Then in the scene, you have to roleplay the scene with the main character. This is your spotlight time to show what your character thinks and does about the crossroad. Then check a box. Check the next box in the crossroad, but if you think the kingdom is in trouble or heading towards destruction, you can check crisis instead. If you do, tell us why you chose crisis. Reactions. Each player can briefly describe how their main or minor character reacts to what is happening. If they want, this lets you respond without having to wait until your turn or until someone invites you into a scene. Resolve. If all of the boxes for crossroad or crisis are full, it comes to a conclusion. Resolve it now. If both are full, resolve the crossroad first and then the crisis. And then you go to the next player. So you go around the table doing all these steps, building up details of what challenges the kingdom goes through and how everybody seems to react. So let's go through like a single round of this, just a single round. And I would like, if those in chat would like to choose a main character, I'll play Luigi. Do I want to play Luigi? Luigi, Mario. I see. I don't. Oh, hello, Mario. That's Luigi. Okay, Builters is playing Petty Peter Piper. Let me write this down. So we're just gonna do one round, just so we understand a little bit about how this runs. So this is gonna be Builters. Luigi Mario is... Now, again, they set it for the main characters, but, you know, I don't think anybody's interested in the Super Mall Manager. So why don't we make the Super Mall Manager a minor character, and we make Petty Peter Piper a major character. Let's do that. So that way we can actually incorporate them into this practice. Luigi Mario is me. Does anybody want to be Captain Skelecoopa? And does anybody want to be the Sea Toad creature? Otherwise, if somebody really wants to be one of the secondary characters, we could elevate them to primary character status. They don't have to be secondary characters. Otherwise, I could go through just one turn with Luigi. I'll probably just do that then. So let's say, for instance, now it is... Roller 300 asks, if I pick one, when do I need to show up? Essentially, yeah, I don't know how I'm doing this. I'm just sort of like hobbling this together. These are basically respectively the steps an individual would need to take if they were playing the game. So let's just say, for example, Luigi is my main character. So first, I have to establish a crossroad. A crossroad of something that is being dealt with, or something that needs to be dealt with now. So, what am I choosing as a crossroad? Based upon the threats listed, I'm going to say threats are pirates. But we also have the rivaling Kobold Kingdom. Let's make this very easy. Will we go to war with the rivaling Kobold Kingdom and defeat their leader, Bowser? That right there, my friends, is the crossroad. There's already crossroad in play. That's the situation you're dealing with now. If you just finish the crossroad, make a new one now. Now, the scene. Roleplay a scene with your main character. This is your spotlight time to show what your character thinks and does about the crossroad. Hello, my name is Luigi. I think those bastards across the ocean have been taking customers away from our splendid kingdom. I've set up quite a nifty theme parkish kingdom here. And you know what? Those kobolds are stealing all of the customers. No, I don't like that. I think that's dumb. I'm not trying to run Disney here. Hello, my name is Mario. Sorry, Luigi Mario. And I think we should go to war against the Kobold Kingdom because they have been flying over the island and dropping rocks on people for the past few months. They're making a sport out of it, and we will not stand for this. They will not drop rocks on people. And they also they put all sorts of inappropriate things. They draw inappropriate things on those rocks too. So it's like an extra insult. So I say we go to war. That's the scene. That's my scene. That's terribly role played, but there you go. Then check a box. Check the box on the crossroad. But if you think the kingdom is in trouble or heads towards destruction, you can check crisis. I would say, I would honestly say we're just beginning the crossroads, so you would check a box on where it says crossroad. Once again, an image of what that looks like is something like this, right? Crossroad, crisis. So then, reactions. Each player can briefly describe how their main or minor character reacts to what's happening, if they want. This lets you respond without having to wait until your turn or until somebody invite you into the scene. Making a crossroad. It's posing a simple yes or no question and asking the players if this topic interests them. Then once the other players agree, describe the situation confronting the kingdom. Don't describe the consequences of choosing yes or no. Or what the kingdom does about the situation. That's what you play to find out. The crossroads must be independent of our characters. So the idea is this. So I've went... everybody sort of sets up their... Oh, sorry. Everybody sets up their reaction. Describe how their main or minor character reacts to what's happening if they want. This lets you respond without having to wait until your turn or until somebody invites you to a scene. So, residents of the Shroomy Kingdom, how do you respond to this suggestion to Luigi stepping up in front of the masses as the king of this kingdom and informing everyone that we should go to war against the Kobold Kingdom because they are dropping rocks on people as they're flying over, and they're doing it as a joke, and it's not funny. If you and then of course you would react, but then we would resolve it, which is if all the boxes there's not all the boxes are crossed, so resolve doesn't get played. But then we go to the next player. Boop 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 boop. Let's say the next player is Builters. Now that is the crossroad we're still on. We're still on the crossroad, which is this one. And I would say for yes, because it was proposed, it gets one vote by me, and then for it gets 1 X towards its resolution is sort of how that works. But then Builter's turn, and Builter says, we can't go to war. We live here with a bunch of nitwits. We need to focus on getting money here at the bouncy castle so we can afford some military goods. So that is a no from Builters. And so I ask everyone in the kingdom, how is it that they react to this? And Builters, you get to decide if this is a resolution, like if voting no is a resolution, or voting no potentially puts the kingdom in crisis. And that is essentially how you figure out if the scene that you're role playing or the decision you're making is something that something that creates contention or something that brings the kingdom to a closer peace. Now, of course, it doesn't need to be like just a decision necessarily like that, like we're all voting on whether this thing or that thing happens. Okay, so that is a point towards resolving. So there's 2 X's out of 5 is the idea. And it doesn't necessarily need to be like a bunch of people sitting around a table and going rub, 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 rub. The scene can be an action scene. It could be like something that happens and somebody made a decision and other people now have to deal with the consequences. And they have to sort of figure out how they act in the scene. So it can be more proactive and less about a bunch of people rabbling around a table. And so to resolve, then of course Builters has suggested that we can't go to war because we live with a bunch of nitwits. We need to focus on getting money here at the bouncy castle so we can sort of afford some military goods. Basically saying we can't go to war yet until we have military goods. So how does everybody respond to that? What is everybody's reaction? What sort of things do they do? What sort of things do they say? And then of course we wouldn't necessarily resolve it until all 5 of those blocks resolve it. And then we would go to the next player and say the next player is Roller 300. And Roller 300 would have that is to say, let's say for example the next player is Phoenix V. Now Phoenix V playing as Waluigi says, "Wow, Waluigi is never picked for brawls. Wow, the ticket will be $5." Anyways, we get the general idea. I think it's a little. I'm doing this a little ragtag, but it's really just to dictate kind of how this game works. And then of course there's some description on making a crossroads. The character you choose must be in the scene, and you have final say over who else is there. So it's more storytelling than it is some person standing up and saying something. But it could be a person just standing up and saying something. Here's an example. In Winterhook's Duel of Wayward Wizards, our crossroad is Do we expel the students who trespassed the Black Henge? The next player makes a scene. And the next player's scene is, we haven't seen what the rest of the school thinks, so I want a scene with Master Cogwarton since he's Touchstone. One of your locations is the Chamber of Mirrors, right? My character is a student, so I normally wouldn't be in there, but let's say I've gotten trapped by their enchantments and Master Cogwarton, you stumble upon and save me. Oh, and Hodge, let's say you have the scene too, since you're also Touchstone. I want to see if you agree. We were sneaking together when the mirrors trapped us. Our situation is kind of like the students being threatened with expulsion. We could be in a lot of trouble, but we didn't mean to harm any, and we're already terrified. So let's see how sympathetic Touchstone is. So that's more what the scene would look like. It's kind of like painting a picture of what that scene is. Role-playing it, not just saying a whole bunch of words. Then, of course, playing the scene is show us what your character says, thinks, and does. Use your role. Respect the roles of other characters. If you want to stop or overcome something, fight or fix it. If you want to undo what someone is doing with their role, or don't think that they're saying about the kingdom should be true, overthrow their role and take it for yourself. Yeah. And then, of course, and I did this wrong, if you're playing anyone other than your main character, you do not have a role, but that's fine. You can basically play this game however you want. And the general idea is, as you are going through turns of each crossroad, you are making particular decisions and overcoming conflicts between the characters and trying to create this drama between these characters. And I think that's probably as much time as I'm going to spend on Kingdom. There's all sorts of stuff like fight or fix, how to resolve crossroads, all of that, and then a bunch of seeds like an anime fan club. That's a seed of a setting that you can come up with. Is Robots Rule Europe an anime, a band featured in an anime, or an anime based on a band? True fans like us understand, because it's an anime fan club. We are either a high school fan club, we were into a certain anime before it was cool, or we are official organizers, like coordinators of a fan club or a convention or something. What kind of world is it? Is this like a real world, or a world that revolves around anime art forms spawning whole media empires? What's the name of the show or group that we love? The threats. The new hotness is drawing fans away from your kingdom. Or there's a rumor that the entity you are part of is breaking up or being canceled again. Also, I want to say thank you very much, Builters, for popping in and entertaining this setup with me. I sincerely appreciate it. Posers are flooding the fandom. They don't understand our EE, or a remake is coming, a terrible remake. Those are threats. And then the crossroads are stuff like, do we make a shot-for-shot fan recreation of that one really cool REE video and release it to the world? Or a terrible parent company has acquired the rights ownership of REE. Do we stop buying stuff and pirate from now on? We have learned that some of our members are also secretly part of a rival fan club. Do we kick them out? You know, all types of stuff. And there's all types of seeds here like, oh, Atlantis 2.0. Or Banner of the Black Serpent, which is a mercenary army. And it's all designed to establish scenes, events, relationships, and the complex dynamics of a faction or group or kingdom or organization. Phoenix V says, shot-for-shot fan recreation is difficult, and I get the feeling it's also a bit limiting. That would be your opinion, Phoenix. That would be your opinion. There are other opinions, but that's okay. So anyways, that's Kingdom. Kingdom's a fun TTRPG. It's a fun one. I would I would recommend the opportunity to check it out for yourself. Maybe consider running it if there's a particular faction or something that you want to develop more of, and you want people around the table to help put it together. Of course, you can set the tone. Doesn't have to be jokey. This session was jokey, but oh, you could do a thieves guild, cut purses, pickpockets. You could be from the streets. You could be organized criminals, or you could be shrouded in ritual. Yada yada. So, what I'm going to do finally is
the journal.
Oh, here we are. Hi, everyone. I'm going to take a super short break, and then I want to dig into the Quiet Year, because the Quiet Year is the one that I enjoy the most of the options, and so I get to show that one off to you as well. So if you've never heard of the Quiet Year, stay tuned. The short version is the Quiet Year. An apocalypse is going to happen, and it is a map building / world building game where you try to determine how do they try to get out of their current situation. So I will be right back. Allow me to hit that intermediary spider plants and cats video while I go grab water, go to the bathroom, and I will be right back, my friends. Right super back. 24 hours. Best of luck. I'd done 12 hours and I realized something also. There are certain days where I'm already doing about 12 hours worth of streaming. It's not super often, but it's more often than I could justify just doing a 12-hour stream as a celebration. So I'm gonna up the ante, and next time it's gonna be 24. My plan for it is gonna be a 24-hour world building stream. I'm going to be creating a world from scratch. I'm gonna have a brand new world anvil for it. I'm gonna be doing lots of writing, lots of, scoping, design, mood board stuff on Pinterest. I'm gonna be basically building this thing from the ground up. It's gonna be an event. I'm going to make it an event. So when that comes down the pipe, when I hit that 300, that's gonna be go time. I'm gonna get that scheduled and I'm gonna celebrate with everybody. It's gonna be great.
Aw, look at that boy. He's so fabulous. Isn't he just so fantastic? Oh yes. Oh yes. He looks so handsome. So ridiculously handsome. Hi. How's everyone doing? So, welcome back. So, if you were hanging out just a moment ago, we were going through a couple of tabletop games. One of them was called Microscope, and one of them was called Kingdom. Now, I was running sort of like just a framework of how you could run Kingdom. It was very off the wall, off kilter. As you can imagine, it's a very different dynamic if you're sitting with players and actually working on the same general ideas in more real time. Playing it with chat's definitely difficult, but you now have the gist of how the game works, how the game touches up on certain aspects, like your ability to roleplay scenes for a specific character that's yours, or a minor character or something like that. And so we are going to move it forward to the third and final game that I want to talk to you about. It is called The Quiet Year, but it's sometimes referred to as A Quiet Year. So, what is a quiet year? What is the quiet year? I don't know, hold on. So I'm gonna have to figure out what's the official name. It's The Quiet Year. Okay. The Quiet Year is a map drawing game set within a sort of a post-apocalyptic scenario. That is, say, an approaching apocalyptic scenario. Could be post or could be approaching. But let's dig in so that we can analyze. We can give ourselves some perspective on what it is we are about to dig deep on. The Quiet Year. Black Man Inc. Hey, friend, how you doing? Here to lurk for a bit? Feel free to lurk. And you came in at the right time because you, my friend, have played this game before and you were familiar with it. So let's talk about it. I have been introduced to The Quiet Year through my particular fandom of Zonecast, which is otherwise known as The Adventure Zone, which is a podcast that is run by the McElroy brothers. Just so that you're aware, the McElroy brothers are not experts, and their advice should never be followed. Although Travis insists that he's a sexpert, but if there's a degree on his wall, I've never seen it. Also, their show is not for kids, so I want to say that because, for the sake of the babies out there who know how cool they are for listening. So what's up, you cool babies? Anyways, yeah. So I'm a total my brother and me and Adventure Zone McElroy fanboy. Those are my podcasts of choice. And the Adventure Zone, essentially what it is, it's basically to podcasts what Critical Role is to live streams. They do actual play. Their first season was known as the Balance arc, and it's the one that they're most known for. And it is a fantastic arc that actually, near the end of it, I actually shed a tear. It's really well told, and it's really funny too. But then, of course, they had other arcs. They had one which was Monster of the Week, which was a really fun one. They had another D&D one, which was sort of like a kind of a mage school. But the latest one, while based on D&D, was based in a setting that they came up with playing the Quiet Year. So they used the Quiet Year to create the setting for the campaign, of which now they're running the D&D campaign in. And for that, essentially what they created was through the Quiet Year was a setting where a particular apocalypse was approaching, basically a magical apocalypse, like a wave of fiery magic that was going to wipe out and sterilize everything. The only way to circumvent this apocalypse was to retreat, multiple different ways, but mainly to retreat into the ocean, where those in the ocean would not be affected by this apocalypse. They would never be able to come to the surface again. But while running the Quiet Year, they basically created an underwater city with a bunch of locations that people could visit. Basically, you can think of it like a Subnautica D&D game. It's really cool. It's fun to listen to. It's really funny. And so if you ever find yourself looking at podcasts, I recommend checking out the Adventure Zone Ethersea. Anyways, there are other ways to run the Quiet Year, but that's just one way. Let's take a dig into what the Quiet Year is and how it works. Written by Avery Adler, illustrations by Ariel Norris. First released in 2013. This iteration is in 2019. So what is this? It's a map drawing game. Together you play as a community rebuilding after the collapse of civilization. Now, it could be rebuilding after the collapse of civilization, or it could be building towards a way to escape the collapse, or in the midst of collapse, a way to survive, right? There isn't just one way to run it. But if you ran it based upon what the book says, this is the iteration that it dictates. Your decisions will define the values and future of this community, and these decisions will get added to a map, which is constantly evolving. This map blends literal cartography with symbols, creating a rich visual record of land and people. Players collaborate to steer the fate of the community while also introducing problems and tensions along the way. It requires 2 to 4 players and 3 to 4 hours. In addition, it requires 1, a blank piece of paper to draw the map, 2, a few pens and pencils, also a couple index cards, 6 small dice, 20 contempt tokens, a deck of Quiet Year cards, the turn summary card located at the end of this document. If you don't have a deck of Quiet Year cards, pair a deck of standard playing cards with the Oracle located at the end of this document or available at Buried Without Ceremony - the Quiet Year. So the idea is, let's say, for example, if we just took a deck of playing cards, right? Imagine a deck of playing cards where different suits, that is to say, whether it is the clubs, spades, hearts, diamonds, 4 suits, each suit represents a season: spring, summer, fall, winter. And each number within each suit is basically it's an encounter. That's what it is. It's an open-ended encounter where the person that draws that encounter gets to tell the story, gets to basically answer the question and tell the story of what happens. Create whatever characters that they want to create whatever setting that they want to create, And the idea is that the story builds on and the story continues as the next person draws the next card and answers that prompt. Very simple when you put it that way. It's basically a game about world building prompts that follow in order, although that order is random. So, chapter 1, you have to prepare your space, clear your table. In this case, if I was running it, it'd be a virtual tabletop. A fleeting year. A full length. The thing is that a full length game of the Quiet Year can take up to 4 hours. If you prefer to play a shorter game, try this simple adjustment. Before play, remove 5 cards from each suit. Make sure to remove the King of Diamonds, Summer, and make sure to keep the King of Spades, Winter, in the cards you play with. I should mention, I don't remember what the King of Diamonds does, but I know that the King of Spades, when you reach Winter, if you drop the King of Spades, it doesn't matter whether it's the beginning of Winter or the end of Winter. If you draw the King of Spades, the game is over. So that's one of those things. It's unexpected. Once you hit Winter, the game can end at any time. Opening story. So if you're basing it off of the story that it gives you, fine, but I would say that you would be basing it off of whatever story that you want to create the premise on. This opening story says, for a long time, we were at war with the jackals. Now, finally, we've driven them off and we're left with this, a year of relative peace. One quiet year with which to build our community up and learn again how to work together. Come winter, the frost shepherds will arrive and we might not survive the encounter. This is when the game will end, but we don't know about that yet. What we know is that right now, in this moment, there is an opportunity to build something. Again, this is what it dictates. It does not describe what the jackals are and does not describe what the frost shepherds are. That's a mystery. That's a complete mystery to the game. You get to use your imaginations. But at the same time, you can take this opening story and you can replace it with whatever you want. It could be an incoming apocalypse. It could be, yes, rebuilding after a post-apocalypse, and to just see what comes of the world after this apocalypse happens. It could be maybe it's not necessarily an apocalypse. Maybe it is a war that is about to brew. It could be something like that. It's up to you. It's whatever story. The main things that's required by the story is that there has to be some critical stakes. Some critical stakes that could mean the complete destruction of everything. If you don't play your cards right. And that is a pun. So point to the blank page. So you have to build out the map as you are drawing these prompts. You have to point to the turn summary card. This card explains how play works from week to week. Basically, every encounter is a week. Point to the dice. These are project dice. When your community starts a project, we'll place one on the map to note how many weeks it will take to finish. Each week, the dice tick down by 1. When a die reaches 0, the project is complete. Point to the contempt tokens. Now, the contempt tokens, they represent simmering tensions in the community. So you do keep track of any drama that's likely to come out of the woodwork. Point to the deck. This deck of cards represents our quiet year. Each suit is a season. At some point in winter, we'll draw the King of Spades. That's when the Frost Shepherds will arrive and the game will immediately end. Shuffle the spades and place it face down, then shuffle the clubs, then shuffle the diamonds, then shuffle the hearts. So that it's spring, summer, fall, winter. When we play the Quiet Year, we don't control specific characters or act out scenes, which you could do that. If you wanted to, you could. That's fine. Instead, we all act as abstract social forces within the community. At any point, we might be representing a single person, sure, or a great many of people. This is a story about social forces and their impact on the land rather than being about specific individuals. At the same time that we're playing as the community, we're also looking for opportunities to introduce new and interesting challenges into the story. It's our job to make sure that there are always difficult decisions to be made and uncertainties to be explored. As we introduce interesting challenges for the community and then figure out how to address them, tensions will emerge that ultimately reveal the character and future of our community. So you're just kind of freely sketching. Now, how would a person like me run this on a live stream, perhaps? I imagine using Foundry as a virtual tabletop, but what kind of map drawing could you do on that? I probably might use Incarnate and then just be the host, the person that sort of draws it for people. I don't necessarily know how to get other people, everybody coordinating on a similar thing. I guess my question is, for any of you that have played The Quiet Year, is it a preconceived map, or are you drawing the lands and stuff on the map? I'm sure that there isn't just one way to run it. Black Man Inc. does say that he did it over Roll20, and everybody drew on the map, and the map looked horrible in the end. See, and that's something that's a challenge, because I don't want the map to look horrible by the time it's done, right? So I figure that if there's a way for me to hook it up with Incarnate, where people are actually like drawing a map, might be interesting. I wonder if there's a way to collaborate with Incarnate. I'm pretty sure. Anyways, example resources. The group is playing in an abandoned mining village nestled in the thick wood. They name several resources: running water, transportation, and scrap metal. They all agree that scrap metal is by far the most interesting abundance, so it gets drawn on the map. Scarcity is running water and transportation. So the general idea is, like, you do have to sketch out the resources. Where are those resources located? And you can sort of go in a turn for that. Then, of course, the actual play, once you've set up where the resources are located, you start with the first week. The other players are quiet audience members at that point, unless prompted otherwise. Weeks take an average of 2 to 3 minutes to complete. So one player goes, they play a card, boom. And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that's the Two of Hearts. I don't want to spoil anything too much. Let's say it's the Two of Hearts. There's a large body of water on the map. Where is it, and what does it look like? Or there's a giant man-made structure on the map. Where is it? Why is it abandoned? So you take that as a prompt. And a lot of these prompts have two different choices. You see it's this or this, and you get to choose whatever it is. Reads the relevant card aloud and resolves it. Bold text indicates that the card has specific rules. Then you adjust the dice. The active player reduces each project die by 1. For every week it's passed, you reduce each project by 1. Any finished projects are updated. Then you take an action. The active player chooses and takes an action such as you discover something new, or you hold a discussion, or you start a project. As there are 52 cards, so there are 52 weeks. We won't necessarily get to play them all because the Frost Shepherds could arrive at any time during the winter. Most cards have 2 options to choose from, with an or divider between them, so you get to choose one or the other. And then adjusting the die. Unless the card specifically told you otherwise, the next phase of the week is adjusting the dice. Reduce each project die in the map by 1. If a project reaches 0, the die gets removed and the project is completed. Whoever started the project gets to tell everyone how it turns out, and update the map to reflect its completion. If the project finished early because of a card, the active player will tell everyone how it turns out. So the projects are supposed to build up something that ultimately allows survival or defense or something, something of need, depending upon the setting, depending upon the conditions. By the way, completed project is usually successful. This doesn't always mean that the whole community is happy with the results, but generally goes as planned. An exploration project will always find something. Then there's the option of discover something new, which is one of the 3 action types. Introduce a new situation. It might be a problem, an opportunity, or a bit of both. Draw that situation onto the map. Drawings should be small and simple. Smaller than an inch. Finished in under 30 seconds. Whenever things seem too controlled and easy, we can use this action to introduce new issues and dilemmas. When individual characters get named, we can record those names on an index card. Hold a discussion. You can choose to open with a question or statement starting from you and going clockwise. Each player gets to weigh in once with a single statement of 1 to 2 sentences. If you opened with a question, you get to weigh in last. If you opened with a statement, that's it for you. A discussion never results in a decision being made. Everybody weighs in and then it's over. This is how conversations work in communities. They are untidy and inconclusive affairs. So to discuss something is more of like a role play moment without any action taking place, which is fine. It's important to stick to 1 to 2 sentences. If any of us feels like we have more to say on the topic, we can always hold another discussion about it in another week. And then starting a project. You choose a situation, declare what the community will do to resolve it. There's no agreeing or disagreeing. The community simply begins the work. As a group, quickly decide how many weeks the project will take to complete, from 1 to 6. Remember that you are a small community. It isn't easy or quick to build a house or repair a water wheel. If a project would reasonably take longer than 6 weeks to complete, it would need to be completed in stages. So basically it'd be like 3 different projects and each one's 6 weeks, if it was a really big thing. Example situations would be, there's a dried up well at the edge of the town. Okay, interesting. Mangy wolves have been slinking around in the woods at night. Or a self-declared prophet arrives. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Example discussions is, should we strike back against the bikers? We could use the old school bus as a sleeping area for the children. Or, I think we need to stop wasting our energy trying to build fences and focus on building actual homes. Then, here are some potential projects that can be considered. We're converting the abandoned mineshaft into a cold food storage. We're going to send a search party to the city on the horizon to search for food and survivors. We're killing those wolves. we're killing those wolves. We will sacrifice a newborn on the night of the full moon to appease the wind makers. Ooh, dear. So, like, here's the thing. And I think this needs to be emphasized more than anything else. There are a lot of games out there where the goal is to win. I guess win, to succeed, right? You're trying to succeed at playing the game. Dungeons and Dragons is a very simple way, as long as you're having fun. As long as you're having fun fighting baddies and winning your fights, right? There's still winning that needs to be involved in most tabletop games. These world building tabletop games are not about winning. They are not about you taking your precious thing to the goalpost. It's about trying to tell a story between a bunch of people. You are free to add complications. You are free to subvert what somebody else does. You are free to just work with everybody if you want it. But at the end of the day, you're trying to tell a story. You're trying to make an interesting chronicle of a post-apocalypse or pre-apocalypse. So just want to make sure I'm emphasizing that strongly enough, because this is not a game. Like, if you got a whole bunch of like min-maxing D&D players playing this game, they would just do whatever they probably would do whatever they thought was like, you know, oh yeah, we make it better, we make it good. Oh, this is just gonna take 1 week. You know, build an entire Cosmodrome. Yeah, let's just say 1 week. Oh, because I'm gonna win at it. Nope, doesn't work like that. How long is it gonna take to build a Cosmodrome? Probably 4, 5, maybe 6. So this game is not about winning. It's about telling a story. As we return. Okay. So that's sort of how those work. But then, of course, there are contempt tokens. If you ever feel like you weren't consulted or honored in decision-making process, you can take a piece of contempt and place it in front of you. This is how we express disagreement or tension. If someone makes a statement or starts a project that you don't agree with, you don't get to speak out of turn. You are instead invited to take a piece of contempt. Contempt will generally remain in front of players until the end of the game. It will act as a reminder of past tensions. If someone else does something that you greatly support, that would mend relationships and rebuild trust, you could discard a contempt token to show that they have healed past tensions. Abundance and scarcity. At the start of the game, we'll have one resource in abundance and at least that many in scarcity. These lists are guides for interpreting the health of the community. We can add or subtract things from these lists whenever it feels appropriate to do so. Maybe the completion of a project alleviates a scarcity or creates an abundance. Some weekly cards will alter the lists as well. Pacing. Spring will ask us a lot of questions, and then we'll learn more about our community's inner workings and surrounding landscape. In summer, larger threats and greater progress will both emerge. Autumn will challenge us with more serious dangers and losses. In winter, the community will continue its work and preparations while we as players will contend with the dramatic irony that at any moment the Frost Shepherds could arrive. If ever the community seems to have it too easy, we can introduce new dilemmas. What happens when a child murders his mother? What happens when someone screws up and ruins a food supply? Decide who will play the first week and then begin. And then, of course, so like that's the basis of it. That right there, that's the Quiet Year. But of course, there's some extras here. One of those things is just understanding what restraint is. When we play the Quiet Year, we must refrain from freewheeling conversations about what to do next. There are specific mechanics in the game for discussing community issues and demonstrating our displeasure. When we play, we must avoid speaking out of turn. These rules reflect how difficult it is to engage an entire community in conversation. Our disagreements tend to linger across weeks or even months. We must also avoid fixating on the story of any single character or set of characters. While interesting figures will emerge throughout our year, and I know some of us will create those interesting figures, and they'll be our babies. We should kill our darlings. We should not be obsessed with our babies. These game rules are not built to tell stories about any one of those individuals. Instead, this is a game about community, its wants and needs, and how its decisions get made about those wants and needs. We should use named characters to support the larger bird's eye view and not the other way around. Sometimes, now it's divided community, sometimes factions arise within the community that will actually lead to a fracture, with two separate camps emerging, or 3, or 4. If ever the community splits apart, the rules function exactly the same, but player voices might now represent members of neighboring communities. Contempt can arise both within and between the two communities. Discussions can be held about mutual issues or issues specific to a single camp. Living underground. If your game is set in an underground or indoor environment, some creative interpretations may be necessary for certain cards. Example, weather might refer to air circulation and ground tremors, such as if you're playing a Fallout type thing and you're in a vault, right? That makes sense. Now, the shepherds. During play, it's best to leave the Frost Shepherds an elusive mystery, perhaps hinting at what they are, but never giving direct answers. The game ends abruptly when the King of Spades is drawn. The card is read aloud and the game immediately concludes. Once the game is over, it's fine to share theories. Who or what were the Frost Shepherds? What did their arrival mean for the community? Now that the game is over, you can wonder together. Maybe it's aliens. And here, I guess this is like some commentary thing. I first released Quiet Year in 2013. Since then, I've learned a lot about settler colonialism and my place within it. Looking back at the game with a critical eye revealed a concerning truth. The Quiet Year was entirely silent on issues of cultural recovery and indigenous resurgence. In a game about community and land, those are hugely important topics. I agree. And I appreciate you recognizing that. Having made that realization, I felt like it was important to rethink some of the structure and assumptions of the game. I partnered with Mark Diaz Truman to design The Deep Forest, a sister game to The Quiet Year. It's a post-colonial, weird fantasy game about monsters rebuilding their community after driving out human occupiers. Abundance and scarcity are replaced by adoptions and taboos, representing how decolonialization is not a going back, but a creative pathway forward towards healing and resurgence. I'm pretty sure when they say monsters, they mean creatures that are, I mean, you understand. I think we understand what they mean. The Deep Forest engages questions of cultural continuity, adaptation, and looming worry of reoccupation. Charted areas. Designed by fantasy cartographer Tony Dowler, charted areas are a series of 3 quick start maps for the Quiet Year. They are allowed to help you get started playing right away, perfect for a demo or fast game. They complete the prep stages of the game for you, sketching the terrain, determining starting resources. Simply pick the map you like to use and begin. If you're playing with 2 players, cross out one of the scarcities. Now we have examples. Thought it'd be interesting to put ourselves next to the coast, somewhere wet and windy. So Lisa reads the opening story aloud and then pauses for a moment to let it sink in. She moves through the introducing our tools, following italicized instructions to read the regular text aloud. She reads out our role and then sketching terrain. Kate quickly sketches an inlet, draws some crude. So everybody gets to sketch something on the map, right? Everybody gets to add their starting resources. Players all agree that the most interesting to have an abundance of textiles and scarcity of both fish and drinkable water. Then under 3 weeks of play, middle of summer, and Raj is now the active player. They rolled 7 of diamonds. There are 2 options written on it. Based upon what is drawn and what is discussed, that is drawn upon the map and determined. And then marks the dots with a dot to indicate the discussion. So if they decide to have a discussion, they mark it somewhere on the map that took place. Yeah. So you kind of get a general idea. And then I don't want to reveal the rest, but the revest are basically the oracle. They are the individual things that you can draw from a deck of cards. That are the prompts. And then, of course, they have some cutout turn summary cards. So, in a brief explanation, in a sentence, that is the Quiet Year. The Quiet Year is something that I absolutely positively want to run. What I want to do for the 24-hour world building stream is I based upon the poll that I took on Patreon and based upon some of the things that intrigue me about certain things recently, certain ideas recently, I kind of have a bit of an idea of what I want the setting to be and what I want to run. And so I want to run Kingdom to determine the development and stresses of a particular organization. And then I want to take some of those events and allow those events to filter into the Quiet Year. because it's from two different perspectives. It's perspective from the organization, and then it's perspective from the world around it. And this is all going to lead into a sort of it's a pre-apocalypse leading into a particular moment, which will be ultimately the seed of the setting. That's sort of the idea that I have. Now, I'm going to take the next 20 minutes, my friends. I'm going to take the next 20 minutes talking about a couple of other cool tabletop systems that I discovered recently that are also for world building purposes. So if you're intrigued by that, allow me to introduce to you one called Dethrone the Divine. That is correct. Dethrone the Divine. Here's how it is. The gods are dicks. They have always been. They ask too much of humans, don't they? The best livestock, a chunk of your money, and in some cases, a firstborn child. What do humans get in exchange? A promise that obliteration would not come as long as the offering was paid, as long as the praise was given. Then there was the rise of technology, from sticks and fire to satellites in space. Connecting the world in a common thread, globalization, a modern-day Tower of Babel. Only it wasn't to break past the clouds to meet God. It was done to escape the shackles of Earth, reaching for the stars. Not to be outdone, gods have had to rebrand and reinvent themselves in these changing times. New gods have sprung up as part of this ever-changing landscape. Gods of the American dream, gods of the World Wide Web, gods of the names with names like Curiosity, faces and rebrands of the forgotten. Gods of cavemen who have woken up to a world who lost their name. Now it is their dream to follow man to the stars and spread their doctrine, trying to gain true omnipotence. But not all gods are content with this. There are still many out there who would want their own slice of praise, those who see the injustice and hate in the world and seek to reshape it, those who want to reshape the world to their own views, some who just want to sit on the throne of the world themselves. These godlings take up their weapons and gifts to rise and dethrone the divine. Dethrone the Divine is a tabletop role-playing game in which the players take over the roles of various characters who have the power to ascend to godhood and set the world back on path. So, intriguing. By the premise of it, it reminds me of the book American Gods by Neil Gaiman. That's basically what it is. You're basically playing American Gods, which sounds really fucking cool. But anyways, you get 5 main attributes: might, grace, skill, aura, and spirit. You have dice pools. You have different kinds of modifiers, hindrances, adversaries. I'm not going to dig too deep into the mechanics, but the idea is that you are giving yourself a name and a concept. You have attributes that you assign, and certain traits and certain domains and origins. And I know exactly somebody who would absolutely positively love this this game. Somebody I can think of right away who I can send it off to. So this one, you can actually find this on itch.io. Once again, it is called Dethrone the Divine by Mr. Ray, I guess. When was it developed? I guess it doesn't have a date. So, feel free to check this one out. There's another one that I think is also pretty fun and interesting. It's called Trashland. Trashland, as a group, decide on a name that people of Trashland would... Hold on a sec. Is there an intro? No. Trashland referred to their ancestors as, "This is our civilization. From their presence, we had the power to ward off the melting and prevent humanity from clinging to floating garbage on the surface of a drowned world." Basically, you're creating a land. You're creating a colony out of trash in the middle of the ocean because there's no more land. Which is a fun concept, and it doesn't necessarily need to be an ocean. It could be like the astral sea, or it could be space. You're rebuilding a colony of the remains of an exploded planet or something, you know? So Trashland is another one that I recommend that would be really fun to play. I feel like I'd want to try to work it somewhere into my 24-hour stream. I think it'd be great. There's another one here called Factions and Fortresses. This one is by the esteemed Alakazam, who is a streaming game master. And this is a Caltrop Core game, which is basically Caltrop Core is using D-Force as opposed to using other kinds of whatever. Boom, 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 boom. Example of gameplay would be the core rules are based upon something, or I haven't actually dug into this much. I don't know a whole bunch. You can create a character. Maybe this can explain. The world is divided. Magic, strife, and misfortune have relegated nearly everyone to castles and kept far from each other, vying for power, resources, and territory. Each faction sends out their best to expand their influence. These knightly orders, mercenary bands, holy cults, and warring gains each have a chance to seize destiny. The wilds are dangerous, monster-filled landscapes, and the fortresses flanking them are political hotspots of intrigue and deception. But there are some who whisper that the world can still be saved, that rather than hate and division, unity and hope will bring salvation to the disparate people. So I'd almost say this has a little bit of a Game of Thrones vibe to it. Also something worth setting up the basis of a more political centric D&D setting. So also one worth checking out. Once again, this one is called Factions and Fortresses. Another one that I want to bring to your attention is I haven't taken too much look into this, but this one's called Numbskulls. This is a one-pager. I love one-pagers. One-pagers are great. Numbskulls. You and your fellow skeletons are the minions of the great and powerful necromancer. Your duty is to fulfill their wishes to the best of your ability. The only problem is necromancy is forbidden, so you must pretend to be a human while in public. So it reminds me a little bit of Honey Heist, except you're skeletons. The necromancer is character controlled by the game master, but together decide what their name, appearance, and mostly importantly what you call them. Everyone may pick a different answer. Is it a title like Master, My Liege, Boss, or maybe just by their name? Or something more familiar like Mom, Grammy, or Father? Skeletons, what is your name? You have 3 stats. You have physical, magical, and social. Range of 7 to 8, 5. Yeah. Super spooky, and then superhuman. So the success range is 7 and 8. Each stat starts with success range. Rolling above or below the range will result in failure and lost opportunity. Players have 5 points to distribute amongst the stats to increase their range. For example, you must use 3 points to increase your physical success range from 7 to 8 to 5 to 9. So when you do something that would result in a consequence, roll 2d6 and add the dice. You want the total to be within your success rate. Rolling under. If you roll under your range, you are super spooky and you fail in a way that reveals you are a member of the undead. People are afraid of you and might attack you. Rolling in range. You succeed in your task. There are no negative consequences, but if you roll above your range, you are superhuman and you fail in a way that impresses people and draws more unwanted attention, but flattering attention. People love you and want to be around you. And that's considered a failure. Helping or hindering. If a player wants to help or hinder the player who's rolling, say how you do it, and let force the player to re-roll one of their dice. They must take the new roll, and both players suffer the consequences. So you are trying to get the sweet spot, 7 or 8 between 1 to 12. 2 to 12. The GM section. Apply cartoon logic to disguises and slapstick to failures. These failures to move the story forward and raise the stakes. Ask your players how they failed a task and assign consequences from there. Remember, you are telling a story together. Their input is just as important as yours. And if the skeletons decide to rebel against the necromancer, embrace this new direction. And then some options. The necromancer wants to do some shopping, become mayor, make more skeletons, some complications. Another rival necromancer arrives. Necromancer is burgled. Someone has fallen in love with a skeleton. Oh no. Further complications. They are going to tell the mayor. A skeleton knew them. There are also skeletons. So basically, a persistent pack of dogs are also skeletons, or persistent pack of dogs have bones of a former skeleton. I like this, by the way. This design at the bottom. Give us back our mom. In loving memory. Oh, I love that. How your character sheet is a tombstone. That's super cool. That's fun. This might be a super easy one for me to run as a Patreon thing. So like, hey, if that is up your alley, my friends, I would be totally down to run this for patrons. 100%. We could definitely make it like vintage cartoon themed with like the black and white and everything. Make it very spooky Looney Tunes. So sort of Cuphead-esque. I think would be great. So, hey, this is actually not a world building one. This is just one that I found. All right, so I digress. That's not a world building one, but here's a world building one. Pearl and Provenance. This is interesting to say the least. Over the course of the game, you create a world map and different types of life forms together, which you will nudge towards sentience and civilization. You'll also be defining divine domains of your 2 demigods, accumulating a collection of short myths about them and about the world, as well as creating a set of lost myths of a land that was. And the end of the game, you should have the foundation of a unique world built together. This is a 2-player world building game. Only 2. 1-2. It's by SKJ, who is also known as Mirrorlock on itch.io. You are a pair of nameless demigods fleeing a terrible calamity. The divine lands where you once dwelt are no more. Individually, you might survive. Together, you will thrive and make your own place in the world. The world which you are shaping is represented by a hexagonal grid divided into tiles. Each tile represents a reasonably large land area by mortal standards. The exact scale is up to you. Every tile of land or ocean has a quality rating representing how beautiful, blessed, fertile, and or rich in resources it is. Unshaped ocean tiles have a quality of 2 by default. Tiles that are shaped will have a base quality ranging between 2 and 8. A tile that has been sanctified will also have a holiness rating. The demigod to which the title is dedicated can choose to add bonuses up to the value of its holiness to the quality rating for the purposes of evaluating it for certain actions. So the quality ratings like blasted, desolate, gloomy, average, pleasant, sublime, blessed. 2 players, 4 to 5 hours, large sheet of hex grid graph paper or a hex grid on a virtual tabletop, at least 1d4, set of pencils, pens, make notes, places to record your records, domains, myths, life forms, and landmarks. What relationship lies between the 2 of you? Twins, mates, opposite aspects? So you have to figure out, like, the 2 players are demigods, and they have to figure out their relationship. They have to figure out what their role is. And they have these options. You can move, so basically moving across the map. This actually kind of reminds me of the game, the Super Nintendo game ActRaiser. I don't know if any one of you are familiar with that game, but I grew up with that game. And it basically, a whole chunk of the game is you, as a demigod of sorts, helping to rebuild society. And you're destroying monsters so that little people on the map can rebuild their, so that they can rebuild their cities and stuff. So you can move, you can define, basically claim a concept to add to your divine domains. You can shape realm, which is shape the terrain and climate of the world. You can create life, which is to attempt to create a life form. Grant sentience, which is grant sentience to an existing life form. Inspire, which is lend a divine spark to a mortal to inspire great deeds. You can sanctify, which is create a sacred place. Reminisce, describe a lost treasure from the world that was. Place, seed, pearl, which is introduce a lost treasure the other demigod described in this new realm. Increase enmity, raise the enmity score, decrease enmity, and attack, which is you can literally strike out against the other demigod. And I think it's like it's a balance of resources between you and your fellow player. Very interesting. Yes, so this here is another way for an individual to create a world. You'd be creating it on a hex map. And I feel like the execution of it would be pretty simple, because let's say if we were doing it in Foundry, choosing a hex map and then create pre-designed tiles for the hex map of which individuals can choose and then just place them, right? Very cool idea. Any other world building TTRPGs that I am aware of? Well, here's one that is. This is an aid. This is not a tabletop game unto itself. This is what's called Plane Maker. I'm happy to have found this. This can be applied to pretty much any TTRPG that you want, but it also could be applied to D&D. There may come a point when you have explored the entire world or someone has done it for you. You crave to see a new horizon, to travel to places other than to places others can only dream about, to experience wonders and dangers that are delightful and dangerous, sometimes both at the same time. You may be a powerful spellcaster, seeing how far you can stretch your powers, or a new godlike being bored with this universe and want to see what you can. You may even be a scientist exploring the multiverse and the realms beyond. Whatever your reasons, the Plane Maker is here to help you come up with the details about various planes from both a magical and technological point of view. So, this is about creating planes, or demi-planes, or pocket dimensions, whichever the case may be. Go on, explore the worlds beyond. It defines what a plane is. They could range from elemental planes or planes that have certain concepts to them. Knowing the base nature of the plane will help you in describing it and deciding if other rolls made in this generator are fitting or not. So you roll a d20, and it could be like astral related, chaotically aligned. It could be element related, aligned with a particular alignment. What was it created by? It could be created naturally, could be by deities, immortals, mortals, or by accident. How old is this particular realm? So there are tables specifically for determining that. There's also age. Oh yeah, what's the apparent age? Does it look older? Does it look younger than what it currently is? So that's an interesting extra part to the dimension of the dimension you're creating. Then the ending. All good things come to an end. The nature of this ending, planned or otherwise, is not always known or even suspected. This is something not every universe or campaign will need, but can inject a bit of excitement if it's one universe your player travel to. So you can kind of figure out what the ending of that world is, and it has some descriptions on what those are. This is also where you determine like what's the purpose of this realm, if you really feel like you need to, or if it's abandoned, why it was abandoned, if it was an experiment, what exactly occurred. The creation of this universe was for one major reason: to provide sustenance for a powerful entity. Power, Rick and Morty type stuff, multiverse type stuff, Doctor Strange type stuff, Doctor Who type stuff. All of the above. Resources, what kind of resources? These places exist to train or teach those who dwell within. Waterfronts, yeah, all sorts of reasons. What's the shape? What is the unit of measurement? To determine the size of the universe, you need to roll to decide, or roll for what scale you are going to measure your plane in. Will it be in meters, ultimately making the plane rather small, or in light years? Edge. What happens when you move, when, or more correctly, if you get to the edge of the universe? Is it another universe? Is it pure chaos? Oh, these are interesting. So if it's chaos, raw chaos, reality rules, and even gods are no longer bound by any rules. This is the most dangerous edge of a plane can have. Also, you arrive at the point you left, sometimes much later than when you left. Yeah, so like there's all sorts of interesting, fun, quirky things that you can add to your multiverse experience. And this is a very helpful guide for that, and I'm glad to have encountered it. You can find Planemaker on itch.io if you are interested in its contents. Bum, 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 bum. Let's bring it back. Let's bring it back, everyone. Hey, I want to thank everybody for sticking around as I go through these world building tabletop games. That is to say, tabletop games that are used for world building. You may enjoy some of these, you may not enjoy others. That is a-okay. Just know that there are a handful of them out there. And I imagine it's time that there's going to be more. That roster is going to be growing. If you want to perform some world building, but you don't want to do it just by yourself, or maybe you do want to do it by yourself, and you'd rather make it a game rather than just making a map, there are answers for that. So feel free to take a look at any one of those. Once again, in list in order. That was Microscope. That was Kingdom. That was The Quiet Year. That was Trashland. That was Dethrone the Divine. That was Factions and Fortresses, Pearl and Provenance, and then Planemaker. With a little extra there that didn't belong. It was Numbskulls. Numbskulls doesn't actually create a world, but it looks like a fun game. So, hey, if you enjoyed this stream, this is a fantastic moment, my friends. Dance. Not really. This is a fantastic moment for you to support the stream actively by, you know what you can do. Click on the button that says follow. So if you enjoyed it, feel free to follow. Feel free to, subscribe if that is what you are feeling. Another option that you have available, of course, is I do have a YouTube, and it is a YouTube that I am trying to grow and populate with more content. So if you want to click down in the doobly-doo and hit that YouTube link, go there and hit the subscribe button. I would sincerely appreciate it. Once again, subscribing is free. It doesn't cost you anything. The final 2 bits of my typical ad reel. I gotta find it. First and foremost, this stream is sort of its own entity, but it's sort of not, because I also have a website and I have a YouTube. I am a content creator in general and a writer. So if you enjoy world building content, if you enjoy tabletop content, if you enjoy writing, then consider going over to chaoticandwriter.com. There are articles there. I have a couple articles that I plan on releasing in the near future, so stay tuned for those. Also,
It does also have things like random name generators. I have mastered the art of random name generation. So if you're looking for resources, it's also a great resource for you. Finally, my friends, if you want to support the things that I do, note that I don't make a living on any of this stuff. However, I still need to like pay the expenses for a bunch of stuff. So if you enjoy this content and you want to see more content and you want to get in tune with behind the scenes, some of the behind the scenes stuff that I'm working on, get early access to things, if you want to participate in some of the tabletop games that I potentially run, that is to say, I usually run a tabletop one shot every month that's patron only. And there's a bunch of other benefits as well. So consider going down into the doobly-doo. There is a Patreon. Consider also, go down into the Patreon and click there and see what the benefits are. And hey, if you want to support this stream, if you want to support me in my content creation endeavors, please check it out at least. Try it. You'll like it. And I want to thank my current patrons, who are all fantastic individuals. You will see that list roll on the wind down screen. Now that I've reached the end of my stream, I just want to say thank you everybody for watching. I do sincerely appreciate it. And I do want to ensure that you and I continue our journey in world building. Before I leave, though, I need to bring it in for one thing. As a member of the Rolling Together stream team, it is up to me to provide support for those who are part of the Rolling Together team. In particular, I am aware of a fantastic individual of top-notch tabletop repertoire known as GM Hina. Now, GM Hina, one of the esteemed members of the Rolling Together community, is currently performing, it looks to be some player, some world building content. If you want to continue with the world building content, then there's one thing left to do, my friends. It's time to raid, because GM Hina is part of the Rolling Together stream team, and it is time for us to provide support to our fellow Twitch community members, especially in the tabletop space, especially in the Dungeons and Dragons space. So here's my question for you. I'm gonna stop the music just to make sure that I can get everybody's attention. Hey, how's it going? Are you ready? Because we are about to raid GM Hina, a fabulous, amazing tabletop streamer. And I want everybody to show up, say hello. Everybody consider following, and gather your swords and prepare your spells, because we are about to enter into the beyond. That is to say, beyond this channel, into another channel. And I want to thank everybody again for popping in. It's been a pleasure and a privilege. And I, Chaotic and Writer, will see you in the next episode. Goodbye, everybody.
What they did. Ah! 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 Okay, I'm done shaking. Hi! Oh my gosh! Chaotic and Writer, hello! Thank you so much for the raid! Whoa.
New member
Whoa.
incoming.
Thank you for the
Welcome to
follow!
the Bean Brigade.
Hello, fellow